Hey, Good Friday. Um, Good Friday. Happy Easter. Uh, um, I'm going to tune into the space call. I wasn't invited to be a host or anything, but we'll tune in. And Lucky's good. He's asleep. Um, I met a dog walking home from church. I met a dog called uh, oh gosh. Anyway, he was sitting at the table with his owner. He's a big bulldog sitting up in the chair. He was a great dog. He put his paw up when you come over to say hi. He was a great dog. But Lucky wasn't with me, unfortunately. Anyway, I want to perhaps um, my computer is being slow, which is not unusual. I need to replace it. Um, but I wanted one of you guys is terrific at research. She comes on all the time. Her name is Jenny Rebecca, and yeah, it's too slow. Sorry. We'll just take a second here. Anyway, she did some research, which I've done a little of my own, but she she goes into incredible depth. Oh, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Um, All right, sorry about that. That was Ham calling, and he's going to be on this other call. He's going to talk about the. He's going to talk about the. He's going to talk about this HBO movie, 2 parts. Second part is about. God, you can't read anything anymore. It's too bad. Anyway, he's going to talk about the GameStop trading on that show. Trying to. Anyway, Jenny did great work on Alpine, and the thing, and I had done a little, like quick, like I am. I quickly looked, but she just really went in deep dive, and the thing that comes across to me is they're just little crybabies. They're making up their own harm when in fact they've harmed everyone. And the one I'm trying to find that really was interesting is how they plead in their court case that they set up offshore facilities specifically to help. It's so slow. I'm sorry. I guess I just got to do it from memory. To help facilitate the sale of stock trades from offshore, and then they also talk about how they only sell stock that exists at the DTCC, which is completely not true. And then, really oddly, they call Kurt Kramer and a couple of others as their own witnesses for Alpine. It's a cesspool. Yeah, they help them steal. Hey, David P. I often go up to 18th and P. That's how the streets are here, alphabetical and number. When I have to, I go up to 18th and P. All right, so let's see. We got to get on this call so we can hear the hamster. It's not going yet, I guess. Oh, I'll get a notification when it starts. So, it's just so complicated. Yeah, here it is. Christopher Frankel, who, from what Jenny sent, seems to be under investigation, but I might be wrong on that. Sorry, it's taking a while. Cheer up. Good to see you back. I make my own decision on sex. I'm just here for entertainment. Go ahead. Go ahead. Make my day. Yes, well, put on some clothes. Later on, I'll buy you ice cream. That's from James Bond. James Bond. I want to see if I can find this. You go to 19th and P. Well, if I had to, I'd go to 19th and P. This is so slow. I'm sorry. I'm going to change that. We'll get pumped up. Thank you, Tom. We'll get pumped up when Ham comes on. Hey, Mario. All right, here we go. Finally, it comes up. Let me see. Google recommends using Chrome. Don't switch. Okay. God, there's a lot. So let me search for Jenny Rebecca. Okay. God, she's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I just wanted to read. Okay, this is a huge docket. See what they do. They use your money to hire crap integrity attorneys. All right, so this guy, Christopher Frankel, goes into court 2 years ago. And the plaintiffs are the Hurry family, which is the jackass from Alpine, Scottsdale, and Alpine. And the defendant is Christopher Frankel, who used to, I think, be the president. So he calls the following Frankel, Christopher L. Frankel, who used to essentially run Alpine, calls as the following witnesses. 1, Christopher Frankel. 2, Stephen Sarnick. 3, David Jarvis Esquire. 4, Stephen Gribben Esquire. 5, Randall Jones. 6, Peter G. Ziv Investment. Howard Rothman. Joseph John Hurry, which I guess that might be the same guy. Then Daryl Michael Cruz Esquire. Henry Dickman. Sorry. I think it's not Dickman. I think it's Dyckman. Is that better? David Brandt, Richard M. Newmy, John Scheibel. These are all lawyers, some of them anyway. Anyway, down here at number 15, Kurt Kramer, Power Up Lending. Kurt Kramer, Power Up Lending. Can you believe that? As it called in. And then there's Scott Kuntz of Kuntz Securities, which is here. Kuntz Securities used to have an office down in D.C. They were part of our softball team. So I guess they all get involved in this criminality. I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about Kuntz Securities because they used to be all right. But I guess when times get tough, you get mixed up in this crap. And then John Tobacco, number 21, John Tobacco. This is Frankel's lists of potential witnesses in the case of basically Alpine Securities versus Christopher Frankel. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. It's signed by David C. Banker, Harold D. Holder from the law firm of Bush Ross, PA, Tampa, Florida. Attorneys for Frankel. It just feels like everyone's in bed with each other, which is not a bad thing if it's, Raquel Welch. So this still hasn't started. Okay, so the court on April 20, this is 2 years ago, unopposed motion to receive sealed transcript. The plaintiffs, which is the Hurricane Alpine, respectfully request the court enter an order instructing the court to file under seal the transcript of the hearing held on April 21. It's unbelievable how the court goes out of its way to protect the criminals. I guess in the United States, you're innocent until proven guilty, unless your name is Donald Trump. Conclusion. Well, that one's boring. Let me see if I can find the other one. The call still hasn't started, so don't worry your pretty face about it. As soon as it does, I'll stop rambling. Oh man, this computer. Okay, plaintiffs versus Christopher Frankel. A motion for a permanent injunction. I'm getting that circling ball. The court will deny the plaintiff's motion for entry of permanent injunction. I can't go to this is 48 pages and I can't go past page 1. I really need to get a new computer. So this is a great computer. Biggest and the best when I bought it, but it's just doesn't have enough random access memory. It's got plenty of everything else. Just doesn't have enough RAM. Am I starting now? Okay, start listening.
On that, I'm just going to go over what I see, what I hear, and again, I watched the GameStop HBO special. Everyone should watch it. It's called Gaming Wall Street. Part 2, they speak about the depository trust and how powerful it calls all the shots on Wall Street, and the brokerage firms own the depository trust. So for those who are not paying attention for the 1,000th time, the information that we got from the depository trust is like massive. Okay? I know the MMTLP people have gotten proof on the emails, but they still don't have proof of how big it is or what it is. Okay? Again, they're doing a great job. I've always told you that group of people is going to be a gift, and they have been. But again, we are the only stock that has proof that it's trading. That makes it very different what they have going on. Okay, we can all sit here and cheer for them, which I do. But again, I can't profit from it. I can't even tell anybody to help how to profit from it. If someone wants to sell their position, let me know. I got a few people that love to buy into it, but they think it's going to be a home run swing. All right, because they can't hide it. All right, but on GTII, remember, it's a trading stock. All right, it has many moving parts right now, and if you look at it, and I posted it On our side, 2.5 years ago, it was just me and a bunch of other crazy shareholders, reporting on what we see. Now we have thousands and thousands of people. We have, Pat Byrne. We're going to have a call with Pat Byrne. Hopefully I'll get Charlie Payne on it this week with Avid Trader. And we're going to go over a bunch of stuff. And I think that's going to be outstanding. I'm educating Patrick on what GTI is about. He doesn't like to speak about things he doesn't understand yet. All right? He doesn't have it in detail. I'll get Charlie Payne on, so that hopefully that call will go great and we can get on that. Second thing we're working on is I'm working with trying to get 1-800 law firms to hold a Zoom call this week to talk about a class action lawsuit so that everybody can see what's going on here. GTII, MMTLP are just two companies that can have a class action lawsuit now without the company's involvement. I don't know how to do it with MMTLP, but with GTII, West Christian is suing on behalf of the company, not the shareholders. The company is being sued. It is suing for everybody right now. But we have the proof from depository trust, and we have the manipulation of the stock down while we have that proof already. So to me, that's a class action lawsuit ready to go. All right, so, we reached out to him, and we're trying to get a conference call set up with him so everybody can see what the hell's going on here and what it means to be part of a class action. I'm not an attorney. I really don't know what it means to be part of a class action lawsuit, but I would love to be part of one. All right, so we'll get the details from a top lawyer who has contacts in the litigator side for class action lawsuits, and we'll hear from him. Okay, just to go back on the GTII for a second. So I spoke about upcoming things with the conference call with Pat Byrne. I spoke about things trying to get the litigators on our side and get that going, putting all the pressure on. Remember that GTII is still trading. It's still trading. It's the only stock that has the proof that is actually still trading. Okay? The bad guys must have got wind from Alpine's attorneys that FINRA was going to give them an extension. The stock has the same pattern every morning where they gap it down. And that's why these guys take advantage and do these drops every morning. I put up a chart before chart.com. You can do the 5-day chart, and every morning you can see the gap opening down 20 cents, down 15 cents, then it levels off because people come in and buy. And people are buying. The proof and the data is there. Investors are buying the stock. You can see the volume. Yesterday, I was in the middle of nowhere, and I could tell you that the short was only going to be 43%, and I said it right on the nose. The rest of the volume is all garbage. It's just wash trades back and forth with each other. And why are they washing trades here? A, to buy more settlement time, but B, they're destroying their own prime broker. For example, LLC number 1 is short 1 million shares at $6. They can't get their money out or make any money until they actually buy the stock back. So they're short at 6. They drive it down to whatever, $1. I'll just make it 1. They drive it down to 1. And they want to cover. So someone else has to sell it to them. So they have a new LLC. They put a few bucks in there, and they start shorting at $1 to the old guy who shorted 6. The old guy who shorted 6 has now made $5 profit. His LLC is now closed up. He can take the $5 million in profit that he stole and walk away. So they're closing up these old LLCs that are short, opening up a new LLC. The new LLC is short at the low point, and when this comes and blows up, the new LLC has no money in it. And the prime broker and the street's going to have to pay this. This short in this stock is way different than a GameStop short. GameStop short had real shorts in it. Real shorts. With money to back them up, and they got blown the market with more shares. That's why it makes it the biggest short squeeze in creation. It's because of fraud. The guys that were short GameStop were not here trying to defraud people. They were here trying to do one thing. They were shorting the stock, okay, and they knew their limitations on it, and that's when they start to panic and buy it back in. Okay, that's what happens differently in this stock. GameStop, the short, the real short, versus a naked short, which is a criminal that we have going on right now in GTII. They're complete criminals, and they're just selling as much as they can, creating as much fraud as possible, and couldn't care a rat's ass to what happens at the end. There's going to be some guy named Hector from Spain who signed off on the LLC, on these new LLCs, and he's the one that's going to put his arms up and say, we just filed for bankruptcy. That's how this is going to pan out. The more they sell, the higher it goes. I said it before, these guys are on a kamikaze mission. Either they're going to win or get blown up. They don't even care about getting blown up. And until someone stops them, they're going to keep piling on. And that's what you're seeing. Very different than GameStop. GameStop shorts are real players, and they tried to cover and eventually got blown up. Okay? And now the difference, I was watching on the GameStop, they had Robinhood, and they talk about the margin call and the depository trust again. They're all tied together. Robinhood was getting a margin call. They needed to shut it down. They had $3 billion they owed. It says it on the show. And Robinhood needed to put up the money. So the only way to figure it out to stop the bleeding was to stop the people from buying. Okay, that's what they did with Robinhood. Okay, but Robinhood was an ongoing business. We have someone that when they call and there's no money, there's no one to call. There's no one here. There's no business to save. There's no one here. Why they give Alpine any more time, I have no idea. Okay, these guys have been criminals for 20 years. Everyone you talk to knows about them. They robbed everybody. Okay, everybody knows about it. One of the shareholders put together all their LLCs. We put it up. It's on Twitter. I think they have 50. Right as they gave me, she's 50. All right, they all tie right back to the same people. The Kramers have the same pattern. You put up their LLCs there also. You know, people on Wall Street think that the sell tickets go away. What they did before goes away. So all these characters that are selling it and covering and walking away, all roads are going to lead back to them because the money trail eventually catches them. All right, so these guys are playing the game to steal the money. They're not here. They're not here just because they're trying to close out a position. They're here. They worked hard. They're trying to steal the money. You can actually see them all day, moving markets all day, washing. Think about what they do all day. This is not a computer. Okay, a lot of this stuff. Some people standing there moving the market makers around. Every morning we see OTCX. OTCX has two symbols, OTCX and OTCN. Just like NITV and VITU, virtue. They have two symbols, okay? These guys are trying to create trying to get us busy, like a three-card Monte game where we can't follow them anymore. They use different market makers. They don't want us to understand what we're doing. It's very different than GameStop. Again, GameStop has options and many different participants. We have a very small criminal, okay, and they can only do the same thing. You can't change the pattern to what's going on here. They can use the same market makers. They're using OTCX and N and Virtue and Night because they're trading platforms. They're not a market maker, right? They use these guys because they can hide their name. You remember the guy from Morgan Stanley? I took orders all the time. They're getting away from giving people orders, and they're using these platforms because it's all automated. As an LLC, they call up, they have a prime broker, and the prime broker lets them open accounts all over the street. Okay, when you're at OTCX, you call them up and say, I have an account that's with my prime broker. They give them the prime broker, and the prime broker, all the money goes back to the prime broker. All the trades go in and out of the prime broker. But they open up accounts everywhere. The prime broker allows that. You can't do it. You can't call up E-Trade and say, can you open up 10 accounts for me? They'll tell you to take a walk. All right, that's a retail prime broker is your E-Trade, Ameritrade, Fidelity, whoever you're using. A hedge fund has a prime broker that allows them to open up accounts, trading accounts in all these different market makers and platforms. You can do it with anybody. You can, if you really are legitimate, you can probably do a business through Goldman Sachs. All right, that's the difference between these characters. But again, we have small-time criminals versus big-time guys that ran GameStop and AMC, and that blew up. I can knock down Apple Computer by selling millions of shares every day, all right? If there's a million shares to buy, and we sell 1 million in one share, the stock's going to be down on the day. Okay, that's what they're doing. They just keep trying. They do it every morning. They pre-market. They're moving the stock down to get in your head to try to tell you it's going lower. Okay, again, to me, going lower means that they're just getting less money for their shares. They have to sell more shares, and they get less money. There's no way out of this trap. No one's leaving. 99% of the people are not going anywhere. Everyone understands the crime. All right. I have friends that I know if they want to keep playing the game and try to push it down, I could put away another 100 million shares, my friends. So this is not something they're going to get away with. It can take 1 year, 2 years. We've been here 2.5. If we stay here 3 years, it doesn't make a difference. We're going to get them. All right? We're here to try to win. Again, expose the system. It's very different than what happened in GameStop. We're going against one person or one little network of criminals. If you look at where we started, now we have Elon Musk hiring lawyers to go after the short sellers. Patrick Byrne is back. Just so you understand, Patrick Byrne is an expert on this stuff. Okay, he has a network of people. These guys are genius when it comes to this stuff. All right, so we have Patrick Byrne, we have Elon Musk joining our side, we have Wes Christian. And so you guys understand, Wes Christian's here, he's a headhunter, he's looking for money. He's looking for a lot of money. He's going to get you guys your money in MMTLP, I promise you that. I told you he would. I told you that these guys were working with people in D.C. I told you that. They said the judge, I'm told, that's on our case, is very pro the retail investor, the GTII. Right? So he's very confident about that, about us getting the discovery we need to expose these guys. As far as the dividends, I heard that FINRA should approve the dividend any day now, the new dividend, the preferred dividend for GTII. For those of you who think that they're going to get around this, Wes Christian has people that are monitoring it very closely, and it's just more proof. It's another trap. Okay? People think that we don't understand that these guys are going to try to get around it in journal entry and create something. We all know it. All right? So it's just more wood for the fire. The company will continue fighting. I'm told they can't do the lawsuit dividend until the judge makes a statement, which I believe they said is around April 15th. So after April 15th, once the judge makes a statement, then the company can actually work on that lawsuit dividend and give a share out for everyone who doesn't understand it. We figured out a way to give out a share of the proceeds of a lawsuit. So if the company earns $1, they can give out a certain percentage of that to the shareholders, let's say 50% of it. So everyone would get a Willy Wonka golden ticket, and that would represent your part of a lawsuit gain or lawsuit win. Okay? And when they do win, let's say they win $1 billion, you show up, the company will hand out $500 million, you show up your ticket, you'll get a percentage of it based on your ownership. And for those who think that these things don't work, go back. I think TD Bank just lost, I think it was $2 billion in a lawsuit for fraud. I think it was $2 billion. I put it up, I just can't remember the number. When these cases pay off, they pay off big. All right, so imagine GTI winning $2 billion on fraud, and we actually have the proof already that there's fraud being committed. The DTC is telling us. So people that are going to be paying this are the brokerage firms, the DTC, Alpine, which obviously will be out of business. But the brokerage firms that all partook, and this not not giving us our dividend shares. There's so many moving parts. You know, guys, I can't repeat it and remember it all. I try to jot it down, but there's so many avenues that West has now in its hands. The new avenue is for us to sign up as a class action and throw that onto the pile. The brokerage firms can only do so much. They're going to fold. When the brokerage firms fold, remember, we want to sue the deep pockets, not the Kramers, not Alpine. Those are the guys that are going to go to jail. The paper trail is going to lead back to them. For those who are just joining in, the company had a debenture with the Kramers with a $100,000 loan. These idiots turned a $100,000 loan shorting against it. Once it was paid off, they are now naked short with no way of covering. And that's when you got Charlie Mayo calling the company up, trying to buy stock back. Right? So they showed their hands a long time ago. They had no idea that we were, you know, these guys, the people in our camp were fighters. We're not going away. For those who've been here for 3 months thinking they could just put up money and just cash out like it's a slot machine, I told everybody many times, this is a battle. All right? These are guys are criminals. The system is completely broken. Everyone can see it. They have bashes all over the place. Guys writing reports. They're doing everything in their power. Those are the Kramers. That's the Kramers. No one else is writing reports unless they're getting paid. Who would write a report on a stock that's $1.50? We all know the company doesn't have the fundamental values. GameStop didn't have the fundamental values. When it was 500, it had nothing. All right, they raised the money and they built back in with their fundamentals. If I was a CEO and a reporter called me up, I would tell them, settle the trade. And then I'll tell you about my fundamentals, because at that point you can do anything, raise all the money you want. We have the proof. It's right there from the depository trust. Any of these bashes that say anything, they're just BSing you. One guy just said everybody's getting rich from GTII except the holders. Okay, who's getting rich? Follow the sell ticket to the money. I always said that. All right, so the bashes that put this stuff up there, they're just trying to get your head. Everybody on the corporate side, the criminals, FINRA and the SEC have been monitoring this stock for a long time. So if the company's doing anything wrong, they would have been shut down a long time ago, because the statements that are being made are so bold. Okay, they can't even say anything now, because now you have the depository trust as our proof. Besides all the other stuff that we have, you have the depository trust telling the world that this company's got a short position. Right? On top of that, they're suing the prime broker that has the short position. They're trying to shut them down and put them out of business, which they will. Okay, it takes a little time. Okay, in the real world, it takes time to shut down people. Look at people who got squatters in the house, they can't get them out. The system protects the squatter, it's not the homeowner. Okay, so the world is crazy. Get used to it. That's the way it is. We're not going away. There's many positive things in our face, and you can see the manipulation by the stock. Every day they're pushing it down. I told you to get people to sell. They push it down, and they're going to come back with a vengeance and start scooping the shares up, because people who panic out will be taken out. They were looking for stop-loss orders. Some people got taken out. You lost your money, call a cop. Okay, I can't help you with that. You've been robbed. They show you every day how they do it. Okay? I can't guarantee you a profit, but I can teach you how they try to rob you. It's the same pattern every time. I post it. It's the same thing. You can see the market makers. Dozer does a great job every morning circling and showing his level 2. You can actually see OTC, OTCX, OTCN every morning. You know what a paper trail that is? Why would anybody continue to do the same thing? We don't see it. Once they get served, the paper trail goes right back to who's doing it, but it's the machine. Okay, I told you that. It's an LLC. That's the difference. And it's a kamikaze mission. These guys are going one way. Once they run out of fuel, or as Patrick Byrne says, once they take their foot off the landmine, it's going to blow up. It can start from wherever it's going to start. But again, remember, these guys have sold, we believe the number to be 300 million. You know, they can't keep selling it down. We actually stopped adding up the number a long time ago, months ago. I stopped adding up. I I stopped adding the number up in finger motion. I said it was 115. That was 5 months ago. I stopped adding it up. You do 100,000 a day, it's 500 a week, it's 2 million a month. It's 6 months or a year, the number goes up like crazy. People keep talking about it, how this number, it's only 500,000 a day. It's 2.5 million a week. These numbers go up big. You've seen the days where we had 1 million shares a day. All right, GameStop is a big play, but GameStop went and it's over with real fast. This thing, they keep trying to hold it down. It's like a pressure cooker. And the difference between GameStop, again, I keep using this, or AMC, is people are educated in those names now. When they happened, I was the only person speaking about naked short selling. How it can benefit from the short squeeze. Everybody in GTI, unless they're in a coma, understands why you're here. Okay, it's a short squeeze. It's 100% short squeeze. That's all it is. Okay, when the company goes and adds its fundamentals, it does it. I have nothing to do with that. When that happens, it'll go. All right, but again, there's many things that could light this fuse. All right, the pressure from the regulators, the MMTLP crowd has just been outstanding. I've always said these people are trapped. They're trapped and the short's trapped. No one can get out. All right, both sides are trapped. But the problem is on the short side now. The regulators are trying to protect the shorts. The freedom of information expose the regulators, which is like unheard of before. All right, the regulators are now exposed, and the only thing the regulators can do now is to actually hurt the shorts. They can't keep protecting them. You have to separate them. I saw a gentleman, so you understand that we filed many freedom of information for GTII. If you don't get the right information, okay, you don't ask the right question, you get nothing back. I don't know how this guy figured out what his questioning was when he did his request for MMTLP, but he got a direct hit, and they answered everything that he wanted. It was perfect. Someone just filed it for GTII, requesting information about Alpine. Remember, we didn't know about Alpine until 2 months ago. I had no idea. We knew Alpine was their prime broker, but I didn't know that they were in litigation with the SEC. So now someone he posted it before, I know the gentleman's name. He filed it, and within 30 days, he'll get the information that they had for MMTLP. Hopefully, we can get the regulators talking about Alpine and how big the problem is there. But they told us it was a big problem. It was big enough that when the stock went up, these guys got a huge margin call. And that's the same thing that happened with Robinhood. They had the margin call, and that's when they were blowing up. And that's when they had to stop the buying in GameStop. All right, so things to look forward to this week. We're going to have the conference call with Patrick Curry. I'll get Charlie Payne on the call, and we'll go over all the details on that. A little different than the MMTLP calls. Okay, again, that crowd's a different crowd. Okay, that's a stock that, again, is not trading, and there's no way for anyone to profit from it. Okay, again, I love reading everything that's going on there because everything that goes on there helps everyone on this board. In any stock you're in, it's going to help the people at COSM, CLNV, GNS, FNGR, you name it. It opens up everything. All right, so it's super important that they got going on. And, I want to see those people get their money back. I told you many times before that naked short sellers kill. People have heart attacks, their families, they go broke, everything, suicide. I told everyone that a long time ago. It's a dangerous game. The SEC, they have no, you can't believe that they just turn a blind eye and actually put it in an email. Okay, that's, to me, that's the first time we actually get a feel for these people that are just dead in the head. That they actually, know what's going on now. They know about the truck. By the way, we're going to park the truck out in front of the SEC this week. I haven't figured out the day yet with our friends. But we're going to let them know about the MMTL thing again and the proof. And we're going to stick it down their throats again. All right? They want to keep playing the game. We can keep doing it. We'll keep embarrassing them and let everybody know about it. I think Elon's paying attention to what we said about giving out a dividend. All right, Elon knows he's hiring his own law firm, his own law team. We tried to reach out to him already, telling him we would help and join in with the fight. Okay, this fight is a life-changing fight. Okay, this isn't a $50 stock. Okay, think about those poor people in the bank stocks that got wiped out, 50, 100, 300 to zero. We're playing a stock that's between 50 cents and $3. I know $3 is a lot of money when you invest. I got it. Okay, but the stock is an option that doesn't expire. All right, I was an option trader. My options used to expire every week or every 2 weeks. All right, I have to be right on the nose when I invested all the time. This one I can turn and look away. It's an option. It doesn't expire. It goes up. It goes down. What's the big deal? I'm not here to sell it to make $1. You guys can trade it, do whatever you like. All right, that's my business. Okay, I do believe this is a game-changing stock, and it can change your life. You do what you have to do. I know guys that have 1 million shares. I know people that have 100 shares or 500 or 1,000 shares. Buy 1,000 shares, you buy it at $1 and you sell it at 20. You can actually pay off your mortgage on your house, buy a car, put a down payment on, pay for college, whatever it may be. Okay, most of us can't afford going out there buying an Apple computer, buying 1 million shares of that. That's not going to change the life. This is a stock, if you do your research, it's all right here. People ask me questions about this. It's posted all day long. Everything you're seeing about GameStop or AMC, this all relates to what we're doing. We're light years ahead of everyone in those stocks. The only thing that we haven't had now is the big funds coming in to buy it. They like to come in when the game begins. When the short sellers fold and the buy-ins come in, Wall Street is full of big mouths. When someone gets an order to buy 20, 30 million shares of stock, the hedge funds will get the call and they start running in front of it. They call it front running an order. If I know someone's got 25 million shares of stock to buy, believe me, people on the street talk to each other, go get their friends to get in front of it. And that's what they did in GameStop. All those people with fucking shit, all those big guys were talking shit because they knew they had so much short. Right? That's why they all ran and bought it. And once they knew they had the people short, the word on the street knew. Berlin Capital, Stevie Cohen, they were all trapped and they knew they had to get bought in. Right? People on trading desks, when they see the big orders, they tell their friends. Because when their friends make money, they get more big orders. That's how it works on Wall Street. All right? Next thing I wanted to talking about this payment for order flow. That means nothing. Get over it. It means nothing. If order flow is what Wall Street's based on. I did it. We all did. Stock settlement. That's all you need to focus on. Don't get dragged into the GameStop and the correction and the rest of it. It's stock settlement. End of subject. They don't settle. I don't care who I buy my stock. Whoever sells me my stock has to settle it. That's the game. See, they never speak about that. They always seem to forget that's the problem. They know that's the problem. I put up the story about the economists. It's all there. They all know the system is broken. Wall Street's plumbing. They always talk about it. The whole back office is broken. The crooks know how to manipulate it. Now we know how they're doing it. Everyone knows how they're doing it now. All right? So I'll leave you with that. There's a lot of exciting things coming up this week. I'll get back to you on the law firm Zoom call so we can start class action lawsuits. Remember, people suing on behalf of the companies, we want to sue on behalf of the shareholders. All right? We want to put as much pressure as we can and get as much money as we can possibly for yourself. All right? Imagine buying a stock at $2 and you get back $30 a share on a class action lawsuit. If you believe the fraud is here and you see the proof, then you want to be part of it. I get it if you don't understand it. If you're buying the stock and flipping it for 25 cents, I don't even know why you would pay attention to these phone calls. All right? This is not a stock to try to make 25 cents in. If you want to go trade for 25 cents, go buy Tesla all day long. It goes up and down $5 a point, $5 a day, every 10 minutes. That's when you go to trade from if you want to learn how to trade. This is a stock that can change your life if you understand what's going on and understand the crime. This is where you can make real life-changing money. And that's what we've been about for 2.5 years. We've been here doing the same thing for 2.5 years because we believe this is life-changing. We thought it was life-changing 2.5 years ago. Now, how do you think we feel about it today? If we said 2.5 years ago this is life-changing, what do you think it means to us today? All right, we thought it was life-changing 2.5 years ago, not 2 weeks. But people that post and say, oh my God, I've been in this stock, when's it going to go? I've been doing this 23 years. I watch people blow their brains out, lose everything. Okay, I told you before, we're not going away. We've burned our boats. We're standing strong. And there's people that have sold, I'm sure. People have been reaching out to me and buying back in. Okay? They sold it at 5, 6, 8, 9 when it ran. God bless them. They do what they want to do. They buy back in. Sometimes they go and they never stop. Sometimes they go, pull back, give people another opportunity to trade it. That's Wall Street. You have to make your own decisions based on your own family needs. I can't determine that. How high it goes, if they haven't bought a share back yet, you know it's going to go pretty high once they start. If you think the government, the federal authorities don't know about Alpine and the Kramers, you're out of your mind. We know the brokerage firm in California, Westpac. We know for a fact the broker Andy's got the FBI up his ass. The firm got robbed for $4 million. Okay? I don't know where it goes. The FBI doesn't tell us what's going on. Okay? But our contact was Andy's dad. So if Andy's dad is listening on the call, whoever you're talking to is our contact. We know what's going on, and we know that you guys, all right? We know the FBI's in the office. Right? That's two things. Remember, when I sat down with the FBI, they told me one thing. We're not here to find on these guys. We're here to lock them up and put them away. Okay, just go back and look how the mafia is. When the mafia gets caught, when they do get caught, they lock up 25 guys in a clip. Not one guy. Not one guy. They lock up 25 guys in a clip. They want to get them all. This is how it works. Again, they want the organization, the guys like Vert, all these market makers that are all front men, all make money off of these guys. They all work together. Anyway, guys, listen, I'm back in town, ready to go, and I'll speak to you on Monday, and I'll try, if I hear any updates on anything, I'll get it back out to you. Anyway, we're ready to go, and we're not going away. Thank you.
All right, guys. I hope you guys could hear that audio because he was coming in really low.
He was driving.
Yeah. So okay, but let me see if I could get him on right now to do a Q&A. But yeah, the audio is pretty low. I was asking if some of the MMTLP community members, if the audio was coming in okay. They said, yeah, we could hear it. So there was a lot of important information, and hopefully you guys were able to hear it. It was killing me that it was actually kind of low. Glad to see you on here, William. I see Bam, Avid.
Thank you,
go ahead and
Busy.
take the mic for right now. William, you can take it away. Let me try to call him.
How you guys doing tonight?
Hey, Avid. Hey, Zach. Ace.
Hey guys, good to be here.
Junk Savvy. Everybody. He's got to be jet lagged, but he's the man.
Mark's
Tony.
here. What's going on?
Dozier. There's Dozier.
Big couple weeks ahead of us.
Well, this idea of getting a piece of the lawsuit is it's pretty dramatic. How do they fake that? How do they stuff it in your account? The potential of having a piece of a multi-billion-dollar settlement.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
So, Avid, you were right about your some of your downside targets. But what's so frustrating, it's all fake trading. It's just all false. But it seems to work, I guess. They must read the same charts or something.
Well, I mean, the stock is active. I wouldn't call it necessarily fake. But yeah, it's definitely something where you could just see historically in time certain key levels that the price is just not able to break through. There's a lot of people selling stock at that specific target, like 180 is a big level, $2, $2.25, just three real simple ones that always come to mind when it gets in that sort of zone. But I don't get too crazy with it. I think GTI is just a really high volume stock in the OTC. It's consistently trades a lot of volume, so that's just naturally.
How would you describe? How would you just answer the question? Somebody asked me, "Why did gaps fill?" And I had my answer. I'd love to hear what yours is. Why does the market?
By the way, Ahmed and William, I have Ham on the phone.
Oh, all right. We were filling in time.
Okay, go ahead, Ham.
The gaps fill.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, why do gaps fill?
Listen, people, you have to understand. We believe there's 300 million shares. Could be more by now. I have no idea. We know they don't cover, right? If you can sell that many shares, okay, we've bought those with real dollars. Investors, we're not Fidelity Money Management. We run out of money. So when the stocks stall, like Avid said, the buying pressure didn't come through. This is not about, you can't beat these guys who can sell endless amounts of shares with just buying pressure. This doesn't happen. Okay, these guys have to fold. When they stop selling, okay, which we have now come to the point where they're going to have to stop selling. We put all the things in place. It's like getting the squatter out of your home. You have to get legal things to get them in place to stop these guys. The system is broken. So we're using West Christian, and the pressure is now showing you that there's proof here. The DTC has now popped up with proof for us. These are things that need to get put in place. Other companies do not have anything in place like we do. We have West filed the lawsuit already. We have the DTC telling us there's problems, so things are in place. Other companies are way behind us, and they're trying to get them in place. It takes time to do this. If the system was normal, then you can sit there and say buying pressure, eventually they would break. But you can see the system is completely broken. These guys are pushing it down so much, they're trying to either cover or stop this margin mess that they have. Okay, but eventually they're going to stop selling, and it's going to turn. And when it turns, it's going to be violent swings back up. You're going to turn around and go, oh my God, stock was $1.30 on Friday. It's $1.75 going to 2 again. And everybody be saying, well, we got to get through 2.25 again, 2.25, 2.5. These levels mean nothing. Once they take their foot off the landmine, it's going to be a rocket. That's what it's about. These up and down swings. If you're going to trade them, go do what you have to do. That's not my business. But I'm not here. I'm here to report the information that I see. And like an analyst, they put things in place. Say the Apple iPhone, they're selling phones. They do their channel checks. And people base everything on, well, Elon Musk selling cars in China. They do. I'm doing the same thing, only I'm basing it on information about security fraud. I'm doing the same thing. I'm an analyst on security fraud, and based on what I see, I can tell you right now, they do not cover. They wash trades, but when they wash it, they're closing out one of their shorts, and they're just they're issuing a new short at a lower price. It's the same thing. And they're taking the money. Bill, we spoke about this. They're just defrauding their own prime broker for more money, correct?
Yep.
William?
Yeah.
You got to unmute yourself, sir.
Yes, we did. I know everything I know because I talk with you.
No, I'm just saying, but we spoke about how they're moving the money.
Oh yeah.
Let me just change the subject, Chris. I know this is an MMTLP crowd. I told you guys 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago, that DC people are all over this thing. There's a wealthy, now that it's all out here, there's a wealthy guy who had very big connections to one of the political people, and I knew that was going to push this over the hill. He was trapped in MMTLP. He reached out to his friends, and his friends are give you all the information that I have. West is all over this thing. You got lawyers all over it. Now you have the proof of the regulators, playing games and hiding stuff. They all know about it. This is coming to a head quickly. Okay, so when it comes to head quickly, you need to pay attention. How do you make money if you're not involved in MMTLP? All right? I can't get involved. I never owned it. Okay, there's no way to profit from it. So go figure it out on your own. I'm not going to tell you what stocks to buy. You figure it out your own. If MMTLP is going to be forced to settle or something major, whatever is going to come out of this thing, it's going to affect a lot of stocks. So figure out which one you want to be, but get into, because when it happens, it's going to be like the horse race. The bell's going to go off, and things are going to happen.
You need to have your GTC orders in, particularly on GTII, because it can happen very quickly. But the second reason to have them in, they cannot lend out your shares if you have an open order to sell.
That is correct. The reason I kept telling everybody to use the GTC, because I know it happened to me. I walked away and I didn't make the sale. So you can never miss a sale if you have an order in to sell. You can always change it. If you have it in at $20, you're telling to move it back, you cancel it and you move it back at any time you like. Stock could be 1992. Cancel my order at 20, move it back to 24. You can do it. We've all done that. I've done that before. Right, but if you go to the bathroom where you have to get on an airplane for 3 hours, put your orders in there. If you're not watching it, you got a meeting or something going on, be aware. You can always get mud to that. Don't treat it like a joke. This is real money. When the guy takes his foot off the landmine, your opportunity is going to happen. Right? So that's what you got to be aware of. I don't know what it's like an old TV show that Bill used to watch. Bill's old enough, he knows this one. Candid Camera, when you least expect it, that's when it happens. All right, so that's what you need to understand. MMTLP, something's going to come out, okay? The regulators are so exposed, it's unbelievable. And that will now affect all the stocks that we're in. The stock that I believe that's next in line is GTI, because we have proof just as deadly as theirs. And in 30 days, we're going to have more proof from the Freedom of Information that gentleman filed. Okay? Hopefully we have a direct hit on that information and they release it to us. We have West Christian with the lawsuit in New York City. These guys are getting exposed. I told you before, we have Elon Musk, Pat Byrne, West Christian, Arbitrator, William, me. There's 50 things that are positive on our side. The DTC is on our side. And we're going against the Kramers and Alpine. Those Kramers are the lowlights from Long Island. If anybody doesn't know, there's plenty of reading, or you can watch Avid's video on them and their list of crimes. Everything they do is fraud. Gretchen Morgensen, the Pulitzer Prize writer, I'm going to give everybody a cell phone number. You can call her up yourself. She's the one that called me and told me that the FBI wanted these guys in jail from this loan sharking thing. And, she knows all about naked short selling. I first taught her she was a broker. And she never done another story. I can't, what am I supposed to do? I stopped calling her. She knows all about it. All these reporters do. I've been copying reporters for 23 years. I have a list of them. The worst reporter was that guy Levine, who did the story on Dole Foods. I asked him 50 times. What was the name of the LLC or the hedge fund that was short the stock that never delivered it? Who paid them off? Can you tell us what happened afterwards? Did people get their money? It's a black hole. You can't get any answers out of anybody. And one of the questions I would ask Pat Byrne with Avid is, Patrick, when you won and you got $30 million from Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, did you sign any kind of restraining order where you couldn't speak about it? I don't know. I think he's holding back information about the settlement that he couldn't talk about because he never spoke about it. It's like his case ended, and that was the end of that. It was a break even. What happened? Why did they give you the money? Why did Mark Cohodes give Patrick Byrne $5 million when he got caught with the Grady and advisors? Why did he give him $5 million? Right, because he's a good guy. So there's a lot of things that we can figure out. But again, will MMTLP be a thing that everyone has to sign and not talk about it? I don't know. I have no idea what they'll try to do. But any questions, guys? Any questions, guys?
Let's go, Albert and Ace. Let's get some hands up here and pass the mics on. I see Mark Brazil up here. Mark, did you have a question for him?
Well, considering I'm the only one who sued the Kramers and got something from them, I think GTII stands pretty strong in their case. I know Wes. I'm working with Wes and Alan Pollack on another case for Genius Group. I'm part of their legal team. And we talk about GTII on occasion and a couple other things. But just so everybody knows that Canaccord filed what's called a pre-motion conference request letter. And what that does, Judge Marrero is an old-time Southern District Court judge. I've been in front of him about a dozen times in other cases. And he's old school. So you have to bring a letter to the court to say we want to bring a motion. According to Canaccord's attorneys, GTI's counsel agreed that we'll exchange motion to dismiss pre-motion conference letters. But they're trying to set up a motion to dismiss, and the return date that the letters are due are by April 19th. So while Canaccord had until, I believe, April 6th to file their answer, they're not going to file an answer. So when you don't see an answer, don't be surprised. They're prepping a motion to dismiss. And, I read the complaint and, I don't see it happening. But that's just my 2 cents. I just want to say to him, how you doing?
I'm very good. I read this stuff all the time. My question to you is, when you went after the Kramers with DPLS, you spoke about RICO charges. I know you had a settlement. Oh, with BNUE. Sorry, BNUE. You had a settlement, so obviously you can't talk about it. But is there any way that the shareholders here could actually get an understanding of RICO and how we can go after these characters?
Sure. I could talk to you about it just like in toxic debt. There's power blending.
You can't go. That's okay.
I mean, all the players: Power Blending, EMA, Octus, Union Capital, GW. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of convertible note lenders. However, in New York, we had a case that went all the way up to the New York Court of Appeals that basically said, and the thing that crushes
just pitching for business
is the conversion discount.
It doesn't help
because
shareholders.
It's a floating percentage based upon the then current trading price. So if you have a $100,000 note and you're trading at $1, and you have a 30% discount,
we know all
market,
this.
You can convert $10,000 of that debt, and now the toxic lender can walk that price down all the way to 70 cents.
No shit, Sherlock.
That's only on $10,000. So now you have 90,000 left. You convert another 10,000 at 30% discount. Now you walk the market down to whatever that is, 50.
We got that.
Cents
You're a genius.
so
Where can I sign up? I want to hire you.
There are more than
You're the most brilliant attorney out there.
The same issuer that are striving, jockeying for position to try to beat the next guy out before he converts his debt. The next thing you know, you had a $3 stock, and now you're trading at 0.003, and people don't realize the gravity of this.
Really?
So we brought a case through the federal courts and got up to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals on the whole issue that my interpretation of
yours
the interest law in New York under its usury statutes would include this conversion.
So Kurt Kramer just moved to Alexandria, Virginia. We got it. You're a genius. You're a bloody genius.
Which has nothing to do.
But every settlement you make loses money for shareholders.
Conversion discount, right? So the Second Circuit said, well, we're not going to tell our 11 lower court federal court judges that they're wrong.
No, why would
We
you?
don't have enough information to decide this. So we're going to punt this to New York's highest court, the New York Court of Appeals, which is in the best position to explain the legislative intent behind the statutes and to decide these issues. Well, after another year of briefing in that court, we won a major decision that said that conversion discount is interest. Now, that's under the state usury laws in Florida,
Brilliant.
California, Massachusetts, Illinois, Rhode Island. There are a lot of states that have usury statutes. So to understand RICO, one of the RICO claims is the collection of an unlawful debt. And that's defined under the federal RICO statute as charging more than double the state's highest usury limit. So in New York, the state's highest usury limit is 25% for criminal usury.
There.
If you calculate
That's
a
interesting.
35% discount conversion alone, that's a 54% interest rate, 54% return. So for every dollar they convert, they're going to get $1.54 in stock, right? So that's kind of like the first level of the analysis. Plus these notes already charge 10% on their face. So now it's a 64% interest rate. Then they have all sorts of original issue discount, maybe another 10%. So now you're up to 74%, 74% interest rate, which is under the RICO statute more than double the 25% under New York state law. So now you have a violation of the federal RICO statute because you're charging more than double the interest rate allowed by law in New York. In Massachusetts, 20%, so it would be 40%, and so on, based on the other statutes of the other states. So to understand RICO, now RICO has a time limitation. And what we've recently done in the Dark Pulse DPLS ticker versus EMA case, we brought a RICO action against EMA, Felicia Preston, their primary manager, and EMA Fund, which funds EMA. And they made a motion to dismiss, and the court said, hey, no. You've pled the proper RICO. You showed by calculations that they've charged more than 50%. We're letting the RICO matter go forward. In other cases, whether they're in the Eastern District of New York or the Southern District of New York, it's really on a case-by-case basis. But we know how much these conversion discount percentages affect the actual interest rate. So if we never had the 8R base decision in the New York Court of Appeals, none of the issuers you're invested in can pursue a RICO claim because it's that conversion discount that brings the interest rate over the allowed limits under New York or Florida or the other states' laws. So now, one more thing that's really important for you guys to understand. You can't bring a RICO claim unless they've collected more than they've loaned. So, for instance, if somebody on Long Island loaned $100,000, but through stock conversions, they received $1 million, in your RICO claim, it's treble damages. And your damages are determined by the amount that they took. So if they took $1 million worth of stock, less than $100,000 they gave you, that's a $900,000 base damage claim. Multiply that by 3, and we get our legal fees. So it's very powerful for actual companies that have suffered conversion discounts, conversions of their notes. And we're looking at some of these NASDAQ companies, because actually we've been brought into the GNS case by Wes and them, and we've been invited to look at some other cases that we're in the process of doing, and I can't disclose which ones.
No, of course not.
But I know that
But you can talk
GTII's
forever.
Case,
Who are you charging this bill
at least
to?
dealing with the Kramer entities, and I'm pretty familiar with this. I haven't seen any conversions. I think that GTII paid these notes off in advance, and they had to pay a prepayment penalty. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't any naked short selling or counterfeit shares going on, because the way these things work is they give the loan, and in 6 months later, on the 180th,
Why wait 6 months? You don't understand it, Mark.
Start converting. Now, anybody can look at the financials because these are 8K disclosures, right? And you can see they took a convertible note on such and such a date. So guess what? In 6 months from now, there's going to be a whole boatload or shitload of stock hitting the market. We know we can cover because the stock is coming into the market, because whoever owns the toxic loan is going to have stock in their brokerage account. So not saying that the brokers of any convertible note lender or the brokers affiliates, but in your case, it certainly looks like somebody was short in the stock, and it sure as hell wasn't because of good news by GTII. It wasn't like an organic type of thing. I think they all looked at the convertible notes when they were due, and then there's this time frame in between where they may have started naked short selling the stock, driving the price down. That's just my
No shit.
Go ahead.
But let me just tell you this. I'll stop you for a second. I try to teach everybody. They naked short IPOs for like an Uber. So they use the naked short to actually manipulate IPOs. They naked short secondaries and big stocks. Like there's many incidences where I'm a broker, I call you up, I say, hey, listen, the stock's $55, we're going to raise, we're doing a secondary. What are you going to price it at? 52. I put me in for 1 million shares. The broker, I call you up as a hedge fund, you start shorting it at 55, you can't borrow any. So these guys naked short, and then they drive it down to 52, and the company does the secondary at 48 now, because they want to give a discount to the people that are going to buy the secondary now. And that's how they damage public big companies. These are not small companies. These are the big boys now.
Yep.
They manipulate the stocks there. And you see a lot of players. One of the famous ones I put up is Millennium. Izzy Englander. His firm got caught doing it. They all do it. So I'm just saying, naked short selling is a tool they use in many stocks. But in the small caps, they do it to destroy, like GameStop, AMC. They were driving them to zero. That was the mission. Okay? These guys were never going to cover. And when they drive you to pennies, most guys will do the same thing. We need to get back to NASDAQ. Let's reverse the stock. And they do it again. And just to let you know, Mark, I always talk about ROOT, R-O-O-T. I spoke with management. My friend's a billionaire. Put me in touch with them. His stock was, he put the IPO at 26, it went to 30. These guys drove it down. They called me up when it was 15. I told them exactly what they were doing to them. They did nothing. They drove the stock to $1. Okay, this was like a $5 billion IPO, down to $1. The company needs to regain NASDAQ. They did the reverse, back up to 25. They did 25 to 1. My friend's position was destroyed. Went to 25. The stock is back to 4. So that's the car wash, I call it. The same playbook, they do the same things. But you do naked short selling in different stocks along the way, whether it's an IPO, a secondary, or just a short and destroy, where we live. That's where we are.
Right. The other thing, too, is we've been asked by a legal team, I'm not going to name any names,
Don't name it because you're so important.
to look at the possible RICO claims, not for the collection of unlawful debt, but for a RICO enterprise regarding a bunch of brokers and their affiliates. So that's all I can tell you right now.
Oh,
Don't be
thank you for
surprised
mentioning it, though.
if you see something
So
big in the
enticing.
next month or two dealing with RICO in maybe some of the cases you're familiar with. So that's all I'm going to say.
I appreciate it.
Mark, may I ask?
We'll get it great with you. Good.
Mark, I'd just ask you a couple quick questions. One, the Kramers moved all of their usury operations down to Virginia. I guess Virginia doesn't have those kind of laws. Secondly, a company, HPIL, settled amicably with the Kramers. The Kramers gave back their warrants. What happened to the stock? It went to 0.0000000001 because there was nothing done to cause the Kramers to have to buy back all the shares they shorted. I hope in your strategy that you do more than just have a goal of amicably settling.
Yeah, that's up to the client. And William, I was the attorney on the HPIL matter as well. That was the other case we sued the Kramers under RICO for. I could only, there's a lot of questions about the HPIL CEO at the time that I really don't want to get into. But, some CEOs will use it as just a path to bring in some money, and other CEOs will see it to fruition. I can tell you right now, in the action we have in the Southern District for a dark pulse in EMA, that CEO is going to see it through. Don't know what the outcome is going to be, but we're hoping it's going to favor our client. Now, with regard to your statement that the Kramers have moved their operations to Virginia, good luck with that. Go check out Power Up Lending versus Cardinal Energy Group, Eastern District of New York. In that case, funding agreement, and they tried to say that Virginia law applied because they were incorporated in the state of Virginia. Meanwhile, the judge in that case found that we were right and applied New York law. And
that's 2013, I think. But the Kramers, sorry to interrupt, the Kramers have set up 1-800 diagonal lending and et cetera in Alexandria, Virginia. So they're continuing Virginia instead of out of New York.
Well, I mean, they can do that. And there are states like Virginia and Utah and Nevada that don't have usury statutes. But going back to the other type of RICO claim, that doesn't mean that a convertible note lender who's moved their business to, say, Nevada can't be subject to the RICO enterprise claim.
Oh, good, good.
Right?
Yeah, good.
So I mean, it's kind of like, and I'm not saying this about the Kramers, but you can run, but you can't hide, and usually bad things happen to bad people. I think they're shrewd, knowledgeable business people who may have taken advantage of just like every convertible note lender basically in that business, take advantage of other court decisions and loopholes and choice of law provisions. So it's not. I don't want to say too much about that, but it's a business, and they treated it as their business to make money. And in some cases, they've won a lot of cases until we changed the law here in New York, and they've settled other cases, which is the real business decisions. So.
Well, I thank you very much for your answers. And I just have a slight difference of opinion with you, and it is my opinion. I think Kurt Kramer and Seth Kramer are criminals, and they intend to defraud American investors and international investors. It's not a business plan at all, and they're not shrewd. They just know one thing to do. But anyway, that's just my opinion. But thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah. I respect your opinion, William. I do.
Mark, let me give you one more. Let me ask one more question. What is your take on this? The DTC telling us. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this before West. So, I was the guy who went to cases down to Texas at the beginning. But I've never seen the depository trust. I mean, I've been fighting the DTC since 2005. They actually put press releases out, which I have copies of, making fun of us for crying that our stocks didn't go up about naked short selling. So for them to actually give us the name and actually show GTII that there's a big problem on the short side with Alpine, I mean, to me, that is like earth-shattering, just like the MMTLP emails are. What are your thoughts on that? Gut feeling, nothing. If you have any insight, I don't want to know, but what's your gut feeling as far as that goes?
Well, I have my own thoughts on what's going on with Alpine, but my gut feeling is Pandora's box. Somebody took a sneak peek into Pandora's box, and all hell's about to break loose from many different directions. So what the outcome will be, I really have no idea, because I think one organization covers for the other, which covers they cover for other people. It's a big business. The shorting, the counterfeit shares, the naked shorting is a huge multi-billion-dollar a year business.
No kidding.
On the backs of retail. And that's why I've always only represented the issuers or their shareholders. I've never represented the other side, and I never will.
Right.
But that's my gut feeling. I can't tell you too much more because I know a couple of things.
I just look at it, and I've been doing this a long time. If you look at it, when Goldman Sachs just was fined for mismarking their tickets, right? They never told you what stocks they sold those shares in. Because the liability, for example, the same with Shopify, which was a $300 stock, and Goldman Sachs sold concentrated positions short or mismarked tickets, and they knocked it down $100, $200. The liability, if they said, "Hey, Goldman stock was Shopify," and they did it between June and July, and that's when the stock went down $100. Their liability is enormous. That's why they never tell you the names. Anyone gets sanctioned on the short side, they never tell you the names. Regulatory violations, they say, UBS paid, they never give you the names. Because the liability is enormous. On a pump and dump, they'll tell you all the names. They pumped up ABC, DFG, they tell you right away. Short side, they never tell you the names.
Well, I have to be in Florida Monday and Tuesday, but I may be on the way back to New York and may be stopping in D.C. and meeting two senators on the Finance Committee outside of what everybody else is doing. I'm not involved in this officially, as you guys know, but this shit pisses me off, and if I can be a voice for you guys at any level, I'm trying.
Mark, listen, I have a stumble line of companies that need help. They call me every day. I mean, if we can get a crack, I would love nothing more to bring the cases, because Wes will be overwhelmed in 62 minutes. But there's a stumble line of real companies that have real businesses. And my beef with any press or anybody that wants to fight GTII, the small piece of shit company, we don't know what it is, all right? But my point is, hey, settle the trade, and then you can talk about my fundamentals. Like GameStop was tweet, and they bought their fundamentals.
Right.
Going out, and they bought their fundamentals back. So I don't believe in when anybody says anything, well, it's a small company. Settle the trade, and let's see what happens. And that's what I believe in. But anyway, I appreciate your time. I would put let me try to reach out to you privately, and then we'll go from there. All right? But listen, I got back in town, and I just had a long flight, and I'll touch base with everybody tomorrow. Thank you again for your time. It's a pleasure.
All right, Him. Take care.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I got a quick question for Mark. A lot of people commenting, pretty consistently that, a lot of this pushback or the extensions that they're getting is, what the ultimate end goal is going to be. And I don't know why people are getting a little upset on the extensions. I mean, I do understand there's a lot of moving parts. I just want to hear, again, your opinion, or, for all the people that don't think any progress is being made because it's just kicking the can down, is there any set, amount of times that they could just continue to extend, whether it's the NSCC issue that we saw on the 29th of March,
It's a good
or
question.
the Tinder issue, which we saw April 5th. Just want to, again, for everyone to be able to hear your perspective on
That's
that.
Avid Trader.
Okay,
It's a good
look
question.
at it like a jury, right? If the jury comes back in an hour, chances are the decision was probably rushed, right? If the decision doesn't come back for 2 or 3 days, it means there's negotiations going on. And I think that's exactly what's happening. I think there's negotiations going on right now between those parties because they're not sure how best to resolve it. And they're going to try to come up with something
That
that's
makes sense.
mutually beneficial for the shareholders and or the organization.
They just
So
don't want
I
discovery.
think no news at this point is good news, and I think every time you see an extension, it's because they're getting deeper into negotiations, not because nothing is not being done. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, great. So no, we're on the same page there. But to again, I guess the last part, this is not going away in any way, shape, or form. It can't just be swept under the rug. I mean, there are way too many eyes on it. Just again, for everyone to be reassured that there really is a super serious issue, and it's not a matter of how fast it's going to get done. It's just trying to come to some sort of agreement.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at it this way, GTI and MMTLP, they're the first 2 breaches in the dam, right? It's trickling out water, but that dam is going to break pretty soon, and it's going to be an overwhelming flood, and I think it's going to benefit you guys and not Wall Street. So, you guys are making your holes bigger and bigger, and more water is rushing out, which is going to weaken the structure. The thing is going to collapse inwards, and I think there's a lot of people pushing on that wall as well as the water's coming out. So, I mean, we know that there's
I think that Laidlaw
members of
case
Congress interested
was
now.
2011.
We think the DOJ is interested right
My
now.
memory was wrong. I don't think it was
And I think
2013.
there's and even the SEC to a certain extent. So I think there's a lot of pressure on that wall, and it's gonna cave to your benefit eventually.
Hi, Mark. Also, the FBI is on it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I heard that, but I didn't want to say too much.
No, that's great.
We've made it public. The FBI is looking at it as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I really, I guess the last thing I would want to say is Alpine seems to just have this crazy long history of doing really malicious things. Like we see they closed out client accounts without telling them, and we don't know specifically which tickers were involved, but definitely a lot of damages. We've seen the offshore things they do in the Cayman Island schemes in the mid-2010s. I think it was like early 2012. Scottsdale Capital is like you said in Utah, which I believe didn't have any usury laws or usury fraud laws. I think that this could be a good opportunity too to get someone pretty toxic off the street. Do you think that there's always usually someone that takes the fall or is sort of an excuse for regulators to say, hey, this is someone that has a long line of history, and it's maybe a good thing for the market if they're no longer a big threat?
Well, if they're a bad actor, if FINRA has labeled them a bad actor, then taking them off the streets is a good thing. Will they be the scapegoat, or whoever is directed, is the target? I'm really not sure. I think everybody's looking to get out of this, but for everybody to keep their skin, including the retailer, the retail side. So I hate to make a guess on that because my own personal feelings aside, you guys don't want to know my personal feelings because, like I said, this shit pisses me off. But from a legal perspective, I think they're trying to figure out a way how everybody comes out. Maybe not a winner, but not a loser.
So that's
and,
what
sometimes you just
I happen to agree with him with that, which is unfortunate.
So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let some other people ask Ace or Busy or I said a lot. Appreciate it, Mark.
Not a problem.
Go ahead, 100. You have the mic.
So, hi, Mark. I have a question, and I'm pretty sure you cannot answer directly, but maybe you could answer it in a way where it might make sense. Because I have a concern here. And the concern is, what activates the exchanging of FTDs between tickers is where I believe the smoking gun is. And if so, would it be that this is under review?
I can't answer that. Not because I don't want to, I just can't answer that.
Understood.
Okay.
Ace, what's up?
Oh, I'm just soaking it up, guys. I don't even have questions right now. I'm just listening. This is just really good stuff.
All right, let's go to Vince. Vince, you have the mic. You have to unmute yourself, Vince.
Can I get your guys' price brackets? Where do you think this is going to go?
We can't do price brackets here, sir.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead then.
Yeah, no problem. You have any other questions for Mark or Ace or Avid or Savvy? Anybody?
No, that was my only question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go to dinner then. You can talk to my law partner, Junk Savvy, though. I see her. She showed up here, so.
Mark, I have one right quick question.
Sure.
In all your time doing this, have you ever seen the pressure mount up this way? You said it looked like they peeked into Pandora's box. Have you ever seen a similar time?
Quite frankly, I've been in my own little universe for the last 8 years, fighting these guys one-on-one, until Genius Group brought me in and I started working with Wes and Alan Pollock, first in Warsaw. And, it's a whole new world. I've never seen this kind of pressure before, ever, by retail in the market. But it's about time, right? There's only so much I could have done through the issuers, but as a group of retail investors in multiple symbols, not necessarily just GTI or MMTLP, but multiple symbols, you guys actually have a big stick, and you're using it, and it's getting noticed, and just keep it up. I'm very vocal, and I'm kind of opinionated as well. So, and this isn't like a promotion or anything, but if you follow me, I write a lot about this stuff. I write a lot of blog articles about this stuff at our website, and I'm actively in litigation with some of these parties as well. So, I try to get to these spaces as much as I can to provide as much information, whether it's my own viewpoint or what's going on in litigation. But, my heart's out to all of you guys. In fact, I've had such bad experiences, I don't even invest in the market anymore.
Bravo to that.
At all. It seems like, it's sort of like the, whatchamacallit,
Fool me once.
The Costanza theory. I should have listened to myself. If I did everything opposite of what I thought, I would have come out really well. So, that's from Seinfeld.
We got it. We got it.
Personally, I will do whatever I can to help you guys. You may see me popping up in a couple of cases you're familiar with. You may see some new cases that my firm files that may grab your attention. But, if you want to kind of just follow me, and, I'll follow as many of you guys as I can, because I'm very interested in what you say. I shot a tweet out to Elon Musk, and I kind of just told him. I tagged both GTI.
I did that too.
And MMTLP.
You're not the only one.
And I said to him, these people look to you as a leader, somebody who's honest and forthright.
I didn't say
and
that.
Understands what they're going through. And
I agree with him.
Even if you're a fly on the wall, attend a couple of these spaces and listen to what's going on, and you'll have even a better understanding from the grassroots level. And just so happens I know somebody who knows him, so I know he's read the tweet. So,
hey Mark, I have it up on the NAS, and let's just take the time to go ahead and retweet that Mark's tweet here that's up on the NAS, reaching out to Elon Musk. If you're listening here, we have over 678 people on here. Please go ahead and retweet,
I tweeted to him too.
Whatever you need to do.
Don't I get any credit?
All right, and just frankly, you're missing that one huge voice that can come in and then grab everybody else's attention, whose attention that you need, right? And I'm hoping he steps up and does it. If not, we'll find somebody else and we'll push somebody else. But I think he's the perfect one to do it. So I'm running late. I got to go to dinner. But I will be in Fort Lauderdale on Tuesday. if anybody wants to get together, just, private message me. I'll tell you where I'm staying,
Wow.
and maybe we can meet at the bar. And if you guys want to talk about this more, I'll spend whatever time I can with you guys. So just let me know.
Hey Mark,
Mark,
if you can shoot me a DM, I can't message you.
Who's that?
Avid.
Oh, Avid, you can't message me?
No, this is a new account. Yeah, I just made this one.
Oh, okay. How about the OTC Lawyers account?
Let me go check.
I was just gonna say, Mark, I'll see you at the office.
No, I can't on the other one either.
You're a junior partner, Junk Savvy.
Oh, did you just downgrade me? I thought I was partner. Did I just get downgraded?
Junior partner. You win your first case, which looks like it's going to be one of these cases. You'll be the senior partner. How's that?
There you go. Can I have a big corner office?
Yeah, I do have one available. So.
Okay. I'll take it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. And
Thank you, Mark.
And hopefully you'll see me soon.
Thank you, Mark.
All righty.
All right, let's go with some hands. Let's give the.
Well, let me just clarify, guys. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want anybody to think I am. I've taken a few law classes, but not a lawyer.
Let's go with Romo Finance. Go ahead. Yeah.
So you're not junior partner? Damn.
Romo Finance, you have the mic. Go ahead. You have to unmute Romo Finance.
Sleeping.
Okay, let's go to Soul Calmness. You have the mic. Can you guys call them out? Maybe they can't hear me, but Romo or Calm, go ahead. You have the mic.
Hey, Romo, can you hear us?
We got one up. 1 second.
We need a really good sound effect.
Anyone with a mic?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
All right. Do we have any idea how long it takes for discovery?
100, if you want to take that, or whoever can. William, I know you're here.
It has to go through a court process. So I don't, the time. No one can tell you the time. It's, each process of the litigation has its own timeline. So it leads up to discovery, and then, if everything goes according to that process and that protocol, then it falls in line with that series of understanding, that what I just described, right? But then there's another aspect to it where you have a court clerk and you have the court announcing that they will either hold that data for a period of time for whatever specific reason it is, and then they will announce when they will release it, and that may not be public knowledge. So, to answer that question is not fair, because there's two different things that may be going on at the same time that impacts timeline.
And they're going to want to come to an agreement before discovery ever happens. So they delay, and then they quickly make an out-of-court settlement. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think even when because you asked before about share price, I think there are a few unknowns that will always be certain. That's, court dates, when is the stock going to run, or when is it going to squeeze? Like, if anyone knew, we wouldn't be here. How high is it going to go? Same question. Like, they're impossible to answer. It's all going to be, different depending on the situation.
I would also add that this is unprecedented. You have RICO claims associated to many of these cases. So, there's so many different variables that are involved. It's impossible to answer that question.
Thank you, William. Thank you, 100. Let's go to Marduk. You have the mic. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, so I just woke up. My sleep schedule is all out of whack right now, but I did catch the tail end of, like the last 20 minutes or so. Great call. Awesome to see everybody under one roof. And I just wanted to touch on what Mark said about getting in touch with Elon Musk. So if you look at the Nest, I actually saw this yesterday. And if there's anybody on social media that feels the way we do about what we're going through, it's Elon. That guy has been through the ringer with short sellers and the banks and the SEC. So, I mean, guys, we've seen the attention that we can gather when we work as one, and I would be. You'd have to have half a brain to think the story hasn't crossed his desk at some point. But obviously, there's a lot of things going on in the world.
What are you doing,
so, I mean,
Lucky?
he can't, focus his energy all in one spot. But
What are you doing?
Let's get his attention. I mean, there's no reason that we can't. I mean, we've gotten the attention of some other pretty big people. So, I mean, let's just make sure that we're liking and retweeting and just push that algorithm, guys. Thanks.
I want to add to Marduk's comment. I'm going to say something very controversial, but I just don't care anymore. Elon Musk became the richest man in the world because he said F you to the SEC. He was done with the nonsense. And he had the courage to take care of business. And there's no question in my mind that he understands what's going on.
Yeah, I think Elon is a guy where even if you don't like him for his views or whatever, some guy would never bet against. If he's running the company, I'm all for it. That's the type of energy I feel with Elon Musk.
Yeah, I think Elon is massive. I mean, he's completely changed Twitter, and think of all the information that's getting spread now. So our movement might not even be here if it wasn't for Elon taking over Twitter. So
That's a good point.
I wholeheartedly agree. Sorry to cut
That's a
in,
good
Ace.
point.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah,
It's a really good
Martin.
point.
I appreciate that. Also, guys, I'm going to have to take off. It's Good Friday. We're going to do some family stuff, but just God bless you all. Have a happy Easter weekend. And, yeah, we're going to keep going. And I might have a video up this week or maybe even join a space call up this weekend. So you guys take care.
Thank you.
You too, buddy.
Thanks.
God bless.
All right, let's go to another hand. Counselor Diamond, you have the mic.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
He's good. I like
Great
him.
call, by the way. I just wanted to speak on the dividend. I remember on the 29th they released some news about the FINRA requesting some documentation or requesting some information from GTII. Has there been any news that came out that FINRA actually has approved it yet, and will FINRA announce it before we get it, or anybody can fill that in for anybody?
Go ahead, Evan. Or William, you could answer that question for him. William, you there? I know that you were accepting.
Yeah,
calls.
I'm sorry. It's confusing which button. Hey, counselor.
Hey, William.
What I understand on the dividend is through HAM, and the two things is one, and I'm not sure which dividend because there's two potential approaching dividends. But number one, everyone on the call will get it if they own the stock through April 15th, and it looks like the approval could come sooner than that. So that'll be the date. The second thing, that's for the restricted 10% restricted share issuance. It's going to be different than which company was it? I don't want to get it wrong. CLNV. I think there was some sort of not intentional thing that slipped through the cracks with them This time, with us, I use the big us, it'll be definitely restricted shares, probably have to be registered with the transfer agent. Then secondly, the second dividend that Ham is excited about is if we can get a court case going, which we already have with Wes, the proceeds from that lawsuit, which I looked up, the one that Ham was referring to was the TD Bank, $1.2 billion. His point is, imagine if there were a settlement like that, we'd have a dividend of that amount. What he said on this call is they have to wait till the judge, I guess, makes a statement. Then they can divvy up, make that agreement with all of us. I think that's the question. Those were the only two questions I can think that you were asking. It's going to be different than CLNV, and I'm not picking on CLNV. The difference is CLNV distributed common stock. They just distributed free to trade stock, so that's not going to catch out the system at all. The whole goal with GTII for 2 years is to try, as Ham calls them, to set traps. And it's such a statement on the United States securities fraud system that the regulatory agencies are so indifferent to the cost of these crimes that we have to go out and do it ourselves. But the idea is to force the brokerage firms to do something other than give you an IOU in your account. And the warrant that we distribute, it's not me, I'm just using, it's the English language, but the warrant that was distributed as a special dividend 2 years ago, in my judgment, I'll just say it quickly, I think it was starting to bite hold at Thanksgiving time. But the process on that was we received the warrant in our accounts if we went past a certain record date. I forget what it was. We received it, and hey, it's in our accounts. It's there. Bravo. Well, GTI added one more step, which is if you were going to get the dividend, the warrant as a dividend, you had to transfer the distribution, not your stock. The distribution had to be transferred to American Stock Transfer. And that took a few phone calls, but in my case with E-Trade, they did it. But apparently a lot of people, they got caught out. And the whole goal, to be simplistic, is to make a run on the bank and ask for try to get a force account of what are real shares versus counterfeit. Anyway, I think I went on too long, Counselor.
No, you answered the question for me, definitely. Appreciate it.
Well, happy Easter to you, Counselor.
Hey, you as well. Everybody else. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Let's go to Gio. Gio, you have the mic.
Oh, thanks, guys. Hey, great call so far. I really appreciate you setting this up. I was just curious. Really matters or optics in like that collage of pictures with people standing with MMTLP signs really makes an impact. And what I was thinking, and I'm just kind of spitballing here, but we're trying to get Elon to recognize us or to acknowledge us. And this is not me being, bragging or, pounding my chest or anything like that. But what I was thinking is if we can get people to take pictures with, Tesla / MMTLP in front of a Tesla, whether it's their own Tesla or go to the dealer and and make a collage with those images, that might be something that would, I don't know, pique his interest or something. Does that make sense, or is that stupid?
Marduk?
You want my opinion on that? from what I understand, okay, so hold a sign in front of like your Tesla vehicle or like the building, like anything that's incorporating Tesla in the picture. I mean, I don't see the harm in it, but I mean, how many people in the MMTLP community drive Teslas? I mean, if you can rally all of them to do it, I mean, yeah, guys, I'll support any sort of movement or awareness creation that you want to generate. But this is the thing. When we want to do stuff, we have to make sure we're all across the board, like, okay, let's do this, and then we have to actually do it, right? There's a lot of people that like do that whole thing where they're like, yeah, they clap, like I'm in, and then they just like sit off on the sidelines and don't participate, right? So yeah, I'm down for whatever. I mean, any more attention that we can get around this issue, I'm all for it. That's why I'm here.
Thank you, Marduk. As for my opinion, I mean, it's kind of like a good idea, just because you'll show like you're supporting Elon Musk behind Tesla and what Tesla went through, and but like Marduk said, how many people own a Tesla here? You will have to actually find either a dealership or a grocery store where you have a Tesla parked and take the picture. But it's not a bad idea. But thank you for that, Gio. Let's go to Barry. Barry, you have the mic.
Yeah, maybe I'm missing something, but Elon in the last week or two did do a huge posting about creating an internal team to fight Wall Street and naked shorting. Has anyone seen that?
Yes, we had it posted up on the last Spaces too.
Was that you, or who was it that posted it, Evan?
I'm not sure, but
Mood Waters, they'll tell you. You don't have to do anything right now. And it's not very hard to do. You fill out a form, and then you make a phone call. And they may prevaricate.
Elon was basically replying to his cause via the internal team to fight against Wall Street.
In general, it should be pretty easy.
Yeah, that was literally the day after James's original tweet.
There you go.
That was Monday. Yeah, where he mentions corrupt regulators, right? Or sorry, bracket sometimes corrupt regulators.
Yeah, he was going after regulators, Wall Street, SEC, FINRA, and he was creating an internal team to fight them. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think it was revolved around his attorneys, though. An internal team of attorneys, so that they're not always having to be on the defensive.
Well, guess what, Barry? It's not a bad idea to let him know that if this thing settles and we open that, go for trading, we'll definitely buy a Tesla.
Oh, I'm getting my Cybertruck. I guarantee you. My wife says no, but I'm getting one. Just gonna show it one day.
Sorry to cut in. Andrew just said he's apparently found something of interest. He's gonna post it up soon. Not sure what it is, but he sounds pretty excited about it. So.
Thank you, Lee.
Cool. Thank you so much, Marduk. Let's go with Green Muppet. You have the mic.
That's BusyBrands talking.
Green Muppet, you there? You gotta unmute yourself. Okay, nothing from Green Muppet. Well, William, Ace, you actually have it. You have something for us?
Not sure anything's coming to mind at the moment. I'm trying to think. I guess the only thing that really sticks out to me is more just being really accepting of how our system is, and I want everyone here to be aware that I feel very strongly that it will be malicious intentions on the broker-dealer end when these dividends come around. So don't be surprised. Same thing like we said when it came to the extensions. We saw the NSCC extension on March 29th. I didn't think anything different was going to come 6 days later, April 5th. So Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. I don't think the story's changed. I don't think any mechanics, fundamentals, structure of the company GTII itself has changed in any way. So I'm not really concerned. I don't really have a set time frame or price either. I just understand that when we look back at someone like Pat Byrne, who was a founder and, you know, went through this very long, expensive, and tedious process, basically being public enemy number one, we're seeing the same exact things here. We know that the SEC never, ever name drops or mentions
right
tickers. They don't even want to mention AMC and GameStop. I say this almost every space call. They don't even want to give the biggest fraudulent plays we've ever seen in the market, the largest retail community. They don't even want to give credit there, a name drop. We just saw Robinhood took a $10 million fine. No name mention. Happy to settle it. I'm sure it's in relation to what they did. So yeah, I mean, we know that there is a big problem. We know that, you know, to have Alpine name dropped, I think I agree with Mark that there's a serious issue here, and it's not going away. And I think we're really making huge progress, and this could definitely be a turning point. But that's pretty much how I feel about the whole situation there.
Well, we got a handout, so let's go to Rocco.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
When Mark was talking, he said, at least I understood, I think I've understood, he said he thinks they're negotiating so all parties can survive this. And I'm thinking, what are all the parties? In your opinion, who are all the parties that should survive?
Rocco, which stock are you talking about? Or both?
MMTLP.
Well, that's the thing. I think he's exactly right. That's what's going on. There are so many parties involved. But anyway, I cut you off. I apologize.
No, and that's why I wanted to answer, because when I'm thinking, maybe I'm too involved in this, but why should we be worried about the nefarious actors surviving? The brokers and the hedge funds and the Kramers and people like that. Why should we worry about that?
Well, my because I've done some videos on it. I don't get the following of Avid or the rest, or Ham doesn't want to go through my long video, but I've thought about it a lot, and I think that we have probably two goals. One goal is to make money, and the other goal is to see justice served, to see a reckoning. And I think it may come to a point where we have to accept one rather than the other. And I hope not. But that's what I think Mark's talking about, is they need time, and that's what the legal system is set up to do. You get time so all the parties come to a rational solution, and the judge just says, okay, fine. Let me be specific. It may come to a point where we have to allow, I'm using the big we have to allow for the fact that the criminals don't go to jail. It's just it's terrible.
And and that's what's making it, I'm almost done. That's what's upsetting me, because they rape, pillage, steal, break companies, people lose their lives, jobs, and when it's all said and done, it's like, well, we can't hurt them too bad. You know, we can't bring down a brokerage firm. We might break the system. You know, they've been pillaging us for years.
Rocco,
I'm just blown off.
Rocco,
Rocco William, I got Bam up here. He wants to chime in on that.
All right, okay.
Go ahead, Bam.
Yeah, I'll take a shot. I don't want to speak for Mark, but I think he was referring to the plumbing at the next level up, right? So, and you guys are talking in terms of, you don't care if a broker goes down. You got to think in terms of the plumbing at the higher levels, and the same organizations that kind of blocked you guys and trapped your accounts in limbo and at that level and higher. And so, and the only reason I chime in is because this is a major focus with AMC, and my premise from way back in June of 2021 was that if these naked shorts are anywhere near the size in any of these individual stocks, forget about in a handful of them, but even if one of these individual stocks carried that type of systemic risk, you just at some point have to be realistic and know that they will not allow certain price levels to be hit, certain pain thresholds to be hit. So what I've always assumed was basically what Mark just said, that behind the scenes at very, very at the highest levels, they've been trying to figure out a way to untangle multiple messes, and it may even be the case that as they were trying to untangle one mess, another one was revealed, like MMTLP. So I think he's probably right that they have been talking about this for a long time and trying to figure out, how do you untangle it and score what I keep referring to as the 360 win on Twitter. I don't know why that's a confusing term, but to me, a 360 win is just all parties involved have something that resembles a win. And for someone who's about to go to jail, a win might be not going to jail but being put out of business and losing all your money. For the government, a win might be that a bunch of very savvy retail traders that banded together don't take down the global financial system. And then a win for retail is not everyone driving around smoking Cuban cigars in their Lambo, but maybe paying off their house or maybe, whatever. Something short of, thousands of Lamborghinis driving down the street with huge piles of cocaine on the dashboard.
We're entitled to whatever a short squeeze brings. 2 days of trading. If they created 1 billion counterfeit shares, if it costs $10,000 a share to get rid of them, that's their problem.
I'm
about that.
I'm 100% on your side. Believe me. I'm just saying, from being around a long time and watching how they've handled this, from the savings and loan crisis eons ago to long-term capital management to the Lehman debacle to everything. I've just got a front row seat for how they handle these things, and they're not going to take down the whole global financial system to make sure that all of us are treated fairly. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean we can't score a huge win. I don't know why people would complain about something that's in between the two, and then we have to hope that they focus on fixing things and getting rid of these the worst of the worst. But I mean, what I think happened, and I think that maybe they may never reveal this, but what I think has happened now that I've really done a deeper dive into this stuff is that we probably have accidentally stumbled into something that's so much bigger than is ever talked about on these calls that it's just kryptonite. And these guys are all scrambling around the background trying to figure out, how the hell did these people figure this out and stumble into this? But how are we going to, how are we going to untangle it, make them feel like they won without literally imploding the planet?
Well,
and I mean, that's my 2 cents.
Bam, I think you said it very well. But to support Rocco's point, which I think is really good, these guys have been stealing for years. They've taken their reward out for 10 or 20 years. And then when it seems like the tables are turned, all of a sudden the system is going to save them. That's one. Two, your 360 win is perfect. But another way of saying it, when a deal struck, everybody doesn't get everything they want. They're pissed off about something.
100%. And a win, remember, keep in mind that a win for someone who's about to be hung
Oh yeah.
Might be life in prison.
Yeah.
Or a win for someone who's about to go to prison might be having all their money taken away. So I'm not saying it's pleasant for the bad guys. I think they're going to annihilate some of the bad guys, and I think probably it'll work the same way it always works, you guys. Whoever's the most politically connected and powerful gets the lightest slap on the wrist.
That's right.
And some poor bastard that came to the game late that they don't like.
Well, if you're old enough to remember, that's what they did with Drexel while the rest of us were still standing. But the other thing I would just throw out is an intellectual question. Why save this banking system? it's all fraud. But anyway, that's a different discussion.
Hey, you know what? I've from the very beginning, I made it really clear that I wasn't a burn it down guy, because there were
Right.
so many people, specifically in the AMC, if you want to call it a movement,
Right.
that were, I could tell from my followers and looking at some of the tweets and things like that the group was, it had everybody from both sides of the political aisle and right into total anarchists.
Yeah.
Which are the burn it down crowd, the Occupy Wall Street crowd.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to align myself with those people in the beginning. Steve Bannon talks about that, and he comes from this world, right? He was a Goldman guy.
Yeah.
And he talks about that the system literally does need to be burned to the ground, which shocked me the first time I heard him say that. And I got to tell you guys, anyway, if you know anything about my background or my family's background, I'm just not a burn it down guy. I'm a hey, we started with something that was spectacularly phenomenal, handed to us from our founding fathers. We let a bunch of bad guys sort of take over while we were off watching football games at the bars, doing whatever, right? Raising families, trying to make a living. But the bottom line is that we have a bunch of really bad people that have taken over the entire operation. So although when I came into this thing 2 years ago, I was on the other side, I'm leaning a little bit more toward a controlled implosion would be okay. If you burn it to the ground and everybody who's already hurting, a bunch of the veteran community that I personally have met through this thing, who then came back from multiple tours, set up a small business, only to have the shutdown, crush them, divorces, carnage. If burning the whole thing down brings more carnage on that group of people, that's no good.
Well,
So
that's
a
right.
Controlled implosion, maybe I might be for, but it's a dangerous game we're playing here.
Yeah. Yeah. You're wise.
Web 100, you have the mic.
All right, so Ben just touched on so many important things, from national security to paying off the potential of paying off the national deficit with resolution for retail that would benefit the government at the same time, and then obviously just who the parties are involved here on the top echelon of things that are getting in the way of our prosperity and the way that the Constitution was built to support our freedom of commerce. When you have private entities in control of monetary and fiscal policy, you will have conflict of interest in governance of that, especially if it's not originally intended as written in the Constitution, where the Treasury should be in control of our commerce, and that is through the people. So that's all I wanted to add. I think it was brilliant. I wanted to put it together.
Yeah, I really liked what you said too, is you're just being really realistic about it, Ben. Just breaking it down, not from like what you're owed or what you're entitled emotionally, just based off of like what the system has historically done and what, again, makes sense for the bigger picture. But I know a lot of people sometimes they say like, oh, like you can never squeeze or never this, but we see it all the time. I mean, we just saw like GNS, for example. We've seen GTI. We've seen other stocks that have gone up thousands of %. We even a couple of years ago saw Overstock do it, Coast do it. Many names consistently, time over time. But I definitely agree with your point. I appreciate that input.
Yeah, and I liked your point about trying to get away from this idea that everything is this Wizard of Oz, all-encompassing algorithm that controls every tick of every day. Your point about some things that trade true to form based on history. I don't know how much of the market actual price history you've studied, but my entire model was built off of the 1922 to 33 period, literally, and then confirmed through the price action up to the 87 top and crash. And so I've studied not tick by tick, but right down to the hour, which we had hourly data back then. And I've studied the Dow Jones Industrial Average hourly closing price, which is the same thing that R.N. Elliott used to create the Elliott wave theory. And you guys, prior to computers, prior to anything, this stuff, for the most part, still trades pretty true. What I personally think has changed is that at points in time, these guys have total control. It's total manipulation.
This is a guy called BAM, B-A-M.
30 years. So they can do things like stretch time. They typically run through stops the upside and downside in all markets now. So that's the most common thing I see personally is way more sort of expanding pattern. Way more than would be natural if you studied Elliott wave theory and go back over the past 100 years of price action. So anyway, I think it's important to not pretend like. I just think if you start to think there's this boogeyman that controls every tick of every day, then why participate? You know, we start to sound like crybabies, and then we never take any responsibility for when we might actually F up. You know what I mean? So on the other part, though, yeah, I just think realistically, it's almost cruel what some of these guys do, or I think it is cruel what some of these guys are doing on YouTube specifically, where they're talking about the MOAS and we're going to be so effing rich every other hour of every other day, because you have people on the other side that think a stock can move. You know, I'll just focus on AMC because I've watched it now more than I've ever watched any stock in my life. And you don't move into a death spiral like that and have the spine of the price action broken and then just move from $5 straight up to 100. Does not happen.
He's
that
right.
way.
He's right.
You know, velocity is like the cornerstone of my work, and I can prove throughout history mathematically that there's certain times where the tape is very fragile to move up or down on news, and there's other times where it's very resilient to where the same piece of news that hits will only allow a market to move 100% when in a fragile tape it can move 400%.
He's right.
It's a fact. So I think it's cruel, number one, to have people think in the back of their mind a stock technically or through behavioral analysis can move up a jillion % on any given tick of any given day. And then number two, I've just seen the government step in too many times to be naive enough to think that any of us are going to see a payout that brings down huge establishments on the other side. They will not let that happen, you guys. Yeah, so I just think you have to recalibrate your brain so that you feel blessed and happy with what's coming. And I think something big is coming for you guys, maybe as early as April, by the way. But anyway, I just think if you sort of recalibrate your brain, you're not setting yourself up to be suicidal if the other scenario doesn't unfold perfectly to your script.
Yeah. A few things I wanted to touch upon is one, I did AMC 24 hours a day when I was involved in it, but at some point I feel like you got to just move on. And I'm not trying to persuade anyone differently. If you have that same conviction, if you're happy, great. You know, if you're miserable and you hate it, you've been, not growing at all in the past year and a half, it might be time to change your habits. But in terms of the liquidity overall in stock, when people say, hey, you can go back to 100, well, how? What catalyst is going to put that amount of liquidity back in the stock? I think people forget, and just in terms of volume, how much was traded in, a multi-week period. I mean, we saw billions in the first run up in the last week in January. We saw, consistently in the high hundreds of millions day over day for, about 2 weeks straight, billions of volume. So even at those price levels on average of 30, 40, 50, all the way up into, that area where it pretty much consolidated till it got crushed, that was insane amounts of money. That is just, there's no catalyst that's going to be able to pump that much actual physical dollars into it. And whoever was invested, most of those people are not in the financial position they were back when it was at all-time highs, or even hold that significant of a position. So that I agree with, and I think people need to really just be more.
Well, you're saying that, I agree with. I didn't say that can't happen again, and I do see multiple potential catalysts coming that can create that again. But it takes time. And even if a catalyst, and if there are a handful of catalysts that potentially can hit the tape, the first one that hits can only start to repair the velocity. And then it takes time. It takes, at least 2-3 weeks just to start to repair something enough to where it can start to really launch on a percentage basis like we did, back in January and then again in May, June of 2021 in all of these different stocks. So I don't want people to misunderstand me that I'm saying there is not a catalyst in that specific stock. And after all, if, I was taking some notes here, and one of the things that Mark said that I thought was really interesting is he said, within the next 1 to 2 months, we should see some big news coming in pertaining to RICO, right? Did you guys catch that?
Yep.
Okay, so I've thought all along that, this is like a huge elephant in the room. And if you're a politician and you don't know that the buy button was taken away, and you don't know that there are these huge noisy groups of people on Twitter that are, you guys maybe you do every day have these space calls. I see you guys all the time, with these calls. So we're kidding ourselves to think that it hasn't hit their radar. So you have to believe that they're behind the scene just trying to orchestrate and strategize a win.
This guy's name is BAM.
You guys know how dirty politics are. So I would think they're eyeballing some of their enemies. And if you can, as a politician, if you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, make yourself look like a political hero to the everyman, and also take down one of your enemies, that's a pretty juicy, opportunity, a big fat pitch waiting for some of these guys. So anytime I hear something like what Mark just said about this RICO comment, I just sort of, file it away in my brain as another potential catalyst. And then even though I specifically focus on my own work and stay away from news flow and things like that, I always like it when I already have like what I think is a significant zone of strength on my calendar, and then I hear stuff like that, what smart guys like Mark say. When it syncs up with some of my stuff, it's just it's just interesting and a good feeling. So I think there's zero chance that all this stuff can be swept under the rug, but I believe that Mark knows way more than he's allowed to say out loud, obviously. And, I don't know about you guys, but I have to be really careful about some of the things I say that I think I know for a lot of reasons. But anyway, the idea that this whole thing can be swept under the rug and that we just don't win in any way, shape, or form is just not, it's an impossibility in my mind, knowing what I think I know about markets and politics and everything else.
Thank you, Bam. Let's go with Opti. You have a question for either William, Avid, or Bam?
More a comment, and I think there's
this is Optimuse.
Many different dimensions and aspects to all of this.
He's friends with him.
How we got here and the size of the problem. And of course, the size of the problem is one of the things that keeps me awake at night, because there simply isn't enough money in the system to address all of the fails to deliver and settlement failures in all the different markets. Because we're not just talking about MMTLP and GTII. We're talking about the bond market. We're talking about the commodities markets. We're talking about what happened with FTX. This is systemic. The fails to deliver is, if you can give enough people who are clever and greedy and whose scruples, or let's not call them outright criminals, let's just say they take the position
like I do.
Nobody's going to notice, or it's going to take forever for them to discover this. This has been going on for so long and with such a high degree. And, of course, the people who could have stopped it just decided to look the other way. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say none of them were involved in colluding with the people who were doing it. They just were either too stupid or too lax, and now have let it evolve into this giant cancer that is bigger than the patient itself. But that's, I believe
pretty
that's
reasonable.
What we're doing. Having said that, the one thing that I think we need to address as we're dealing with all this is that, as speaking as somebody who's one of the older people here. I want a safe place to put money. And I think that when President Clinton and his cronies, and I will say I'm a Democrat, but I'm a conservative Democrat, when Bill and his cronies decided that they wanted to repeal Glass-Steagall back in the 90s, I was aghast. And now I'm 20 times more aghast, because basically what we did was we gave the system license to not only play games, but to actually screw around with your savings and invest in derivatives.
That's Bill
credit
Clinton.
Default swaps. And,
I'm a Democrat too, but that's Bill Clinton.
And use people's money so that they didn't have enough reserves on hand, and they had ways of hiding all that. And I do think that we need, one thing we can pressure our legislators on is to say to them, this experiment has failed. This experiment of creating too big to fail has failed. And it's time to go back to separating banks where Americans, people all over the world, can put their hard-earned money and know that it's safe. And maybe look at increasing the federal insurance to a level that makes sense given inflation and people's needs for retirement. And undo what Glass-Steagall did. So that's that. It's not really more of a question than a comment and observations, and I'll happily give up the mic and appreciate everything you guys are doing to keep this conversation going.
You mean undo or redo or reactivate Glass-Steagall?
Well, either. I mean, if there's a better version of it today, I mean, keep in mind that was, that had been on the books since the Depression. And the idea was to keep the Depression from happening, to keep the stock market crash and Depression from happening again, because back in the Depression, leverage was 10 to 1. And they they decided, the government sensibly came out of it and said, we need to put in some firewalls to make sure this doesn't happen. So if it's Glass-Steagall, or some other better version of it that more addresses the needs of modern banking, I really don't care. I just want to know that if I put $1 million into a savings account that I've worked my life for, that I don't want some idiot who doesn't know what they're doing, or somebody who's arrogant and thinks that they can only gain upside because if they make money, they get to keep some of it, and if they lose money, they get a bailout from the government. That's got to stop.
Optimus, it's also the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act that he signed in to law, correct. Bill Clinton. And that's that whole canard. I mean, it's a little more specific, but just getting to the concept. It was derivatives and commodities, but it's the whole idea that the market will regulate itself because it's in their interest to run an honest market. That's all baloney. I don't know Rubin, or I don't know who convinced Clinton of this, but he passed more Republican ideas than any Republican was ever able to. And I'm a Democrat too, by the way.
The main takeaway, though, you guys, really, really simply, and I just coincidentally just tweeted about this specifically like an hour ago, I guess. But it's just that the banks were banks, and then the investment gambling houses were separate. That's Glass-Steagall. Yeah. You don't have to know anything else, you guys.
100%.
And as soon as they repealed it and they came up with this other stuff, they could intermingle. And then as soon as you can intermingle, it gave them an incentive to become too big to fail. And as soon as they bailed out long-term capital management, LTCM, the mathematical whiz kids that almost incinerated the world in 1998, things have just gone downhill from there. So you have a perverse incentive, and you'll notice that, after 2008-9, Goldman got bank status.
Yep.
Right? I mean,
well, and then
but that's a really easy way to look at it.
Then they moved.
A bank is a bank. It's conservative.
That was
and the gambling houses are gambling.
And that's
houses.
all I was saying. My point is really simple. I want to know that if I want to put money into a bank, that money is not going to be touched by somebody who has incentive to screw around with it. That's it.
Exactly. Because if they screw around with it and they have FDIC insurance backing the games they're playing, the gambling they're doing.
Yeah, look what happened in 2008. They got bailed out, and the money was supposed to get lent out to the public, and it never did. It got used for bonuses. I mean, all this happened right in front of us, so very clearly
He's right about
the
that.
system as it is cannot ever be trusted in its current form to do the right thing. The only way you can do is to at least separate out the banks and make sure that people who decide that they want to put money into a bank and they want to get money is there and it's not going to be screwed with. And if the people want to go and if they want to go to the casino and they want to play around with that, fine, but keep it separate.
He's right
It's been
about that.
almost a 40-year experiment that failed. And I'm just saying, while we
He's
have
right about
Washington's attention on all this, in my opinion, we should be revisiting the subject of re-separating these issues, because we do have leverage, how it's going to play out.
He's
Given
right.
the fact that there's shenanigans going on with the FINRA halt and all this stuff, this would be an opportune time to have Congress revisit the idea of bringing back separation between banks and investment banks. That was my point.
So
I like it.
I just wanted to add that, the question was, someone didn't know who was the individual that inspired Clinton to repeal Glass-Steagall. It was Larry Summers.
That's right.
It was Larry Summers. And then now...
You're right. You're right.
Larry Summers is the same individual who is now trying to warn us about economic collapse. He's playing both sides. It's ridiculous.
Just trying to explain to him it was a loop appointment, not trying to step on any toes, but,
Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
So the issue in which I see here is the fact that we have individuals who happen to have very strong relationships to academic institutions who have recently got caught with, tax issues with foreign entities. So this is more than systemic. This is on a grand, national security level that is beyond financial markets.
Which is why they're pushing back so much.
Right.
Which is why the bigger the problem, the bigger the pushback. I want to go to another hand. Let's go to AG Free. You have the mic.
Hey, I appreciate it. Somebody had mentioned just earlier, I totally agree the cancer is bigger than the body now. And, I totally agree with you, too, is that they cannot pay this money out. I mean, it was interesting. I saw somebody put a feed every, week or so on Twitter that says, hey, what stocks are y'all interested in next week? And there must have been 50 or 60 stocks I scrolled through, and every one of them were waiting for the short squeeze. I didn't even recognize 60% of them. You don't even recognize them, and I thought I knew basically which squeeze places are out there. And so, you can have a 1 penny stock that could just cost trillions of dollars. So they're not going to let this happen. They're not going to let anything squeeze. But what is the solution? I mean, do we just say we need to give them a way out? We need to say, hey, we'll take $1,000 a share, $500 a share, because right now it's kind of like if you walked up to me and says, I'm going to sue you for $1 billion. Come and get it. I don't have it. I never will. It's not even reasonable to sue me for $1 billion. So, the question is they're not going to let it happen. So would anybody have a thought of what could be the solution is?
Go ahead, Bam.
Well, that's when you say let it happen. If it means $1 million a share in a certain stock, then no. But if it means 1,000, maybe. So I'm not certain. I'm not someone who thinks this whole thing's dead and everything's gone. And by the way, the idea about all these other ticker symbols popping up and all the social media pumping, you guys have to also remember, keep in mind, which most of you probably do already, that there are paid propaganda companies that are trying to make people chase the shiny object, and that collectively there are so many
this guy's good. This guy's good. Bam. He's right.
Who have under that $25,000 day trader, minimum amount needed in an account. And so if these guys can make them collectively go chase the shiny object, they lock that money up for a certain period of time before it can be redeployed into one of the real names, or they might sweep it out of the real squeeze opportunity into the shiny object.
So right.
I noticed in the past they were running about 7 different individual tickers. I don't know if Avid noticed the same thing, but over the past 2 years, they were running about 7 tickers, about 7 to 10 sessions prior to the mini pumps that we'd have in AMC.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, most of those pumps of 100% to 400%, those moves that we've made in bounces between that June 2021 high and where we are now, I think most of those, if not all, are what my buddy Pedro refers to as pressure release valve moments and wash sales. They're handoffs. So it's the same hedge fund that's short trading between themselves. And matter of fact, I may actually file a whistleblower report because I think I have enough specific information to hand it off. I'm trying to get some help from some very, very smart people. One of the people has already won a whistleblower award several years back. But anyway, you got to keep in mind that there are games being played, and then you have to keep in mind that some of these little sort of 100 to 400% moves you see in these stocks, these are pre-orchestrated wash sale handoffs. They're totally illegal, but they go on all the time, and it helps them accomplish 2 things. The pressure release part of it means that it prevents an even bigger run when they see something happening to where, they can't continue to bury the failure to delivers and different things like that. They can't hide all the games they're playing. They try to reset. And so, number one, it creates that, releases the pressure so that if something hits the tape that they're not ready for, and keep in mind, most of the time they know everything that's coming because this thing's so insidious, but if something hits that they're not ready for, something global macro that might destroy the long side of some huge hedge funds holdings to where they have to run and cover a bunch of their shorts and just any.
I don't know why it went out.
These things could get away from them. So it's better for them to do the pressure release valves every now and then create a new trading range that can buy them 2 more weeks to 2 more months. And then they can go in and exploit the options market, obviously, selling the calls, selling the puts, the excite, right, and pin dynamic that I've talked about. So there are tons of games, but back to your original comment, you have to define what you think a win is. And I 100% believe that we're going to be, they're going to allow a win, but I also believe they're going to throw someone else or multiple people under the bus so they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
What price per share do you think would be a win on this? Because I've heard the theory, and we've all probably heard it. We get paid off on MMTLP. We're going to dump all our money in MMAT to cause a squeeze there, and it just causes this contagion where there's no way that the financial system can support this. So if you say, where do you draw the line and say, gosh, we're just going to, we've all heard the theory, once one bank fails, they all start failing, and it just goes into this contagium, and there's not enough money around. They can print more. They're not going to just keep printing trillions and trillions of dollars to pay off the meme stock issue that's been going on. So that's the curiosity is there's got to be a way out for these banks to say, gosh, we got heavily punished. We're not going to do that again. Get some rules changed. But then, the majority of these people that are holding these shares get some sort of reimbursement for their trouble. And yeah, I'd love to see a squeeze to go to $4,000 and $5,000 a share, but I just don't think it's going to happen because they're just not going to let it.
I don't see out at any ticker, especially if AMC's nature is going to get to that level.
They were talking about even somewhere in the tier 2, and I've seen it on the Twitter about the next price if it were going to start trading the next day before they shut it down was like $4,000 a share, and it goes up from there from $10,000 to $15,000 a share, and I'd like to believe that would happen, but I just don't think it can. I just don't think there's enough money in the world.
Knowledge of the market is probably a little similar to BAM, so I'm pretty realistic as to what I deem is fair, and I always like to stay pretty conservative with that. Just in terms of what some of these expectations are, I mean, I would always say just on a very simple basis, give me another example of where you've ever seen, a stock go from 2 to 100,000 or 2 to 1,000 in a snap. I mean, you just don't. And, HKD is different. It is different. It barely traded any stock. It was moving up 80 points off of 80 shares. It's not even the same type of play. But either way, I mean, I think already did it had two, I would say, pretty significant moves. I don't feel like for the play of AMC that anything else is entitled in this. Not to say the fraud isn't real, not to say anything else isn't manipulated. I don't deny any of the facts here. I just think it was so detrimental, it was so fraudulent, and that's why we continue to notice all of the halts. I mean, again, witnessing it, watching it in real time, being a part of it, and married to it, I'm just, again, kind of numb to the whole situation. I remember as April Fool's, it was 34, 33, they hit the halt. I mean, 12 days, 13, 14, 15 days, whatever it was, just an absolute kill, all the way down to $9. The next time before it came to APE, it went $28.50, $28.20, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure or 27 in that range, where it did pretty much a double top type of deal, got destroyed again. I just don't see this coming back. I hate to say it. I think this was just one of the most massive inside jobs, and you had all the reporters that were, like even Charles Gasparino, that was laughing, and I think he was just laughing because he knew ultimately what was happening behind the scenes. When he said it's going to $1, it's because he knew all of his buddies were going to keep putting as much money as possible and just destroy the stock. So again, it's Wall Street is connections, who you know, what you know, not just what it appears to be on the chart or whatnot. But again, I'm all for the stock. I would love to be wrong and this have its day. But in terms of the significance of the play, I think that's how I factor in whether or not certain outcomes are going to come to fruition. Plays that are smaller, I think, make more sense. Plays that pose a threat to the system, not so much. And we saw what type of extent the brokers went to just to hold this thing back, halting it, not allowing it to trade. And we already saw what the Fed has been doing the past 2 years is this unlimited amount of supply. They could just continue to pump into the market, hold the VIX down. There's a million different things that we've seen to prop this market up. And it's scary. It's very scary. And it's something that, so many people are sitting there and, when's SPY going to fall off the face of the earth? And when is SPY going to get that, 100-point gap down? It just doesn't go. So I think we're living in a different time. But it will be interesting to see, just referring back to Mark's comments in the next month or two, if some big stuff's going to come out. We already seen it with MMTLP, GTII, but don't let my opinions, influence you or anything. That's just, I could be dead wrong on it. That's just how I see it personally.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Bam, and thank you, AG Free. Andrew, are you ready? No, he's waiting for something. Okay, so let's go with Golden Ticket. You have the mic.
Yeah, the thing, my problem is they've been doing this for decades, and the one person said, well, they'll learn. We get some laws and they'll learn, but this is the same thing that's been going on, since the 1929 crash, and then we have all the bank runs, and so they never learn. They always get out and get their way. And so for them to come in and go, okay, because for them, they're going to say $30 a share or $100 a share or $500 a share. That's amazing. That's amazing. But it's like they've been taking our money for decades. And so it's kind of like, okay, you're going to take a hit. You're not going to get the $1,000 to $3,000 a share.
Who's
and
this?
Then, oh, by the way, these guys
Golden.
are going to go to prison. Oh, by the
This
way,
is Golden.
they're going to switch. And so it's like, we're still going to take the loss if they come out and don't trade this and see where it goes. Otherwise, it's like retail just loses because they'll find loopholes around all the laws. So that's what really scares me about it, especially since, you know, I know a lot of them, what they'll go is like, you know, $3 to 100. Think about that. And I think John Berta had a price of like 575 is the value of the share. You know, even if they do that, you know, at least that's some kind of a peg, but that's still an unfair peg. I really feel like they owe us several thousands dollars a share for the pain and shit that we've gone through in the last 3 months. Not the fact, also the fact that we actually got them caught, you know, just with our situation. So that's what scares me about the whole thing.
So, and Bam, I have a question myself, and it's a good point that he's making there. I mean, compared to AMC, where you have 4 to 5 million holders, right here we have, you know, give or take 65,000 to 80,000 holders. I mean, either Avid or William or Bam can answer this, but I mean, even if we go into those high numbers, I know we don't like to speak numbers around here, but I mean, we cannot wreck the system. It's actually the naked short positions that they're worried about of covering. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, I think there has to be, first, bookmaking has to be done. They have to really assess what is the real amount of supply, and then what is the current supply circulating. How many actual shareholders own stock that they shouldn't, right? And then also how many other accounts out, you know, external accounts from, let's say, an institution level is out there as well. And the DTC is also responsible for that because they hold a certain amount of stock as well. But I don't think that any one outcome or any one answer is correct. I don't know when it comes to bookmaking and actually settling the trade if it has to be 100% of the position. Maybe it's, you know, maybe you're able to cover 50 or 60 or 70% of it, and that'll be able to, you know, then be played out over the next year and ease the rest of it, right? I don't know exactly how a regulatory body determines it, but pretty much for any of those big plays like AMC or GME or anything when it comes to even now MMTLP, realistically, when the government bodies, whoever the risk management team is there, comes up with some sort of plan, we're going to do this is how we're going to go about it, this is the amount of dollar loss we're going to take, then that's going to be your answer. If it's $100, it's $500, whatever it might be, there's going to be a point in time where it gets cut off. Same thing with GameStop. It ran hard. I watched it go to 512 in pre-market. When they hit the halt and the hammer, that's it, you know, and it bounces, doesn't bounce as high, and then slowly it starts to fade. That's pretty much how all the stocks are going to go down. I don't know about MMTLP because, you know, you need I think it's 2 days that you get for trading. I don't know how they're going to go about that. I've never really seen anything like that to compare it. But yeah, they'll know the number. They'll know what makes sense or what they can afford to, you know, manage it in a way.
What I think.
I mean, the question is maybe we need to be the adults in the room to go to the government and FINRA and say, all right, we're willing to accept a painful amount if you for financial, you know, $800 a share, whatever it is, but also change some laws so this doesn't keep happening. I mean, I would certainly lower my demands from my share if they would change some rules and they would enforce the rules they got.
Well,
and maybe we need to be the adults in the world to do that, suggest that.
Try getting everyone on just in a small room of 10 people to agree with you. Now try a space call 600. Now try
total.
Shareholders.
Yeah, I agree.
1,000. You know, how's that? Everyone's going to feel it.
I think that. Sorry, I'm talking over you, Avid. I didn't mean to because I was trying to look up the gentleman's name. But I think the one thing that you should consider, I don't personally think it's the money. I think the system could afford $1 trillion. They don't want to expose everything to everyone all at once, because that's where the trouble is. So
William, it's the electronic system. It's not just the rules. It's not just book entry. It's the electronic system.
Of course. Go ahead.
Right? So,
yeah.
Like, if you have a cancer or a malware into a system that is heavily compromised, why would a regulator come in who doesn't even understand the damn thing, right? Come in and put themselves on a sword and try to make something right, right? So, like, this is an unprecedented situation where you have the opportunity to not just be one person on a docket to prove a crime through RICO statute, right, or Sherman antitrust, but you also are in a situation where, listen, Congress, stop the nonsense. Like, this is bigger than you. This is we're talking about survival. We're transferring from old school thinking to new school thinking, and we're trying to save a monetary system and not cause world war. So, like, how do you do that? You have to attack the system that is being used, and you have to address it in a way that has to be used in a way that doesn't cause chaos. So, book entry is one aspect, right? And then people, having a systematic way of slowly going through a method of margin calls, and then you address the national deficit. You're paying people that benefit from these margin calls or these short squeezes. They'll be able to help the government in paying down national deficits. That's one part. But you still have a problem going into a new monetary system. That system in place, that is the problem. That's the root cause of everything. That's what I feel is what no one seems to be understanding or talking about. What is it? 95% of trading is by a computer? I mean, come on.
Well, and to what end? It, Gensler says on his moniker on Twitter that the SEC supports capital formation. All that trading doesn't do anything for capital formation. That's just stripping pennies and halfpennies off of the market for greed. In terms of the electronic entry, the whole system is fraud. It's imagine if your Congress, or if there's a sentient being in the White House, you're looking at a system that is hundreds of trillions of dollars of fake shares. It is scary. It really is scary. In terms of having it happen one margin call at a time, Reg Show in 2008 was created as a way to slowly unwind this problem. Well, what happened? They just accelerated the problem. So I agree with everyone that it could be really big, and will be, but I don't think financially, in agreeing with someone that spoke earlier, I forgot his name right now, they've been ripping the system off for so long. I think it's unfair to settle this issue on the backs of the people, the victims. Go get their money. And if the banks have to come down, one or two of them, well, so be it. What value do these banks really add? What's so precious about this system we're trying to save? Yes, it's going to suck if it comes down all at once, but it will be replaced by stuff that you understand 100 much better than I do. Blockchain, for example. But to continue this fraud under the guise of we can't afford to let it go down, I really think that's buying into their framing of the problem.
Hey, I've got a suggestion for everybody, not financial advice, but this is something I've talked about to my subscribers, and then I posted it publicly on Twitter multiple times. But if you guys aren't already familiar with Treasury Direct, treasurydirect.gov.
I am.
Okay, so go check it out if you guys aren't. And let's see, I can't remember who it was. It was talking about the banks and separating the risk and all of that. So a good solution in the interim here, especially if we're going to move into the type of potential shitstorm that it looks to me like we're about to head into during the summer, with the rollout of the Fed now and these guys pressing really hard on this, moving us towards central bank digital currency, is if you can at least remove the third-party risk. So you remove the layer of risk that lies between you and your money. And so if you set up this treasurydirect.gov account, It's in your own name, and it's just you buying either T-bills, notes, or bonds directly from the U.S. government. No commission, no fees. And what I like about it is on the T-bill side of the ledger, they have a duration as short as 4 weeks. So, if you have any, if you're able to plan sort of your life at all, most of us could tie up some money for 4 weeks and be okay with it. So anyway, you can go in there and you can basically, if you think that there's something on a global macro scale that looks sort of threatening, you see a hurricane coming, you can go sweep money in there and have access to it 4 weeks later and have zero risk of a bank failure or a brokerage failure. So I think even if you're only going to put like $100 over there, you just go ahead and do it. And it took me about 7 days, I think, to set the account up. And then it's sitting there. And even if you don't want to use it, at least it's there. You might change your mind down the road.
I think it's brilliant. And one other thing, keep your gas tanks full. Keep your gas tanks full.
Sound advice from both of you. Thank you.
Let's go to Little Dog. Go ahead, you have the mic.
Yeah, I was just going to say, AG was making a couple comments earlier. I feel like 2008 was as good of a learning lesson as we could have in most recent history. And that was something that, should have played a bigger part in the way that we moved forward within the markets. Wow. And then the other thing I was going to say is that, Abbott, I really appreciate the humility within your answers that you're giving as far as, you always say like, oh, I could be wrong, or I could, you'll say that, and I appreciate that. But I was going to say, I feel like people should temper their expectations in terms of, dollar amounts, just as much to the point where it will protect their mental health. But outside of that, if you're willing to fantasize and willing to play with certain dollar amounts, and that's okay, and you can go to sleep at night, go for it. Why not? Who cares?
Thank you for that. Let's go with Kendall. You have the mic. Kendall, you have the mic.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, I was on the phone. I just have a quick question. Taking all the naked shorts and all this conversation out of scope, if I may ask about GTII, I am obviously long MMAT and have MMTLP, but I just want to ask a question. I'm sure Abbott is very savvy on GTTI. GTII, I'm sorry. I just got out of work. What are the fundamentals for the company that can support and increase in share price over the next few months, years, whatever it is, taking the short squeeze, taking the naked shorts? What, because I don't know a lot about the company. I really don't. So can you give me an idea? I mean, is the company in a good healthy shape? I mean, I'll do my own research, but I just wanted to, since you're so much in it, you may have a quick answer, maybe have some direction where I can, kind of look at and kind of see if I want to invest in that as well. I don't want to invest in a short squeeze anymore, to be honest with you. I just want to, do the fundamentals, and if the short squeeze comes. If it doesn't, at least I know I'm okay.
Yeah, so, no, it's a fair question. So when I first started ever covering GTI, word for word, I said it's a piece of shit company. It doesn't do anything, doesn't employ anyone, doesn't really earn anything. It's a short squeeze play. It's exactly what I said, word for word. In this case, it's slightly different. There is going to be a potential merger acquisition of a law firm that I believe 5 to 6 months ago, roughly, don't quote me, 4 or 5 months ago, had about $85 million in receivables on the books, and it has a ton of really highly accredited lawyers. They own a media company. It's called 1-800 Law Firm. You could look into it. I've done videos on it. So that was pretty much from a fundamental standpoint what I was most excited about. And it's been pushed back. It's been delayed. But again, not really the company's fault, more just on the auditors and whatever government entity or agency that is. So we're just waiting. I think it's going to be the end of May where we should hear back from it. So that's pretty much from a fundamental standpoint where I would say has any sort of context to or really anything significant. The only other thing was the potential warrants if the share price is above 275 to exercise. We know a lot of people weren't able to do that the first time around because of whatever broker issues that came about. But they did earn about $3.2 million from the initial raise that they got during the first run when everyone was exercising. So I think they paid West Christian and whatever else they did with the money. So it's really not a fundamental play. You said you don't want to invest in a short squeeze. That's probably not the right play for you then.
Okay. So it's not. I mean, are they striving for cash? Are they looking to raise capital or anything of that sort? Are they,
I don't think there's. I mean, the company really doesn't do much. It doesn't. Okay. I don't think it really employs anyone either. It's just purely a play where we saw a flaw in the system. We saw, an entity that has a very long criminal history, Alpine Securities. Their Utah company, Scottsdale Capital, is really another entity associated with them. And if you know the name John Hurry, he's. I joke around and say he's a pleasure. But yeah, just closing out customer accounts without their knowledge. They've been fined hundreds of thousands of dollars for doing that. Offshore Cayman Island schemes back in the early 2010s. Start to post more of the articles again now that I have this new account. There's no post there, but I've done a ton of videos on it. If you just go all the way back from my first, I think it'll clear it up. But it's not a fundamental play at all. Just purely seeing an opportunity the same way someone saw an opportunity to short against the debenture. The company paid off the debenture, trapped the short seller, and then they just created this huge mess over the past year and a half, 2 years.
Got it. Okay, that's good enough for me. Thanks a lot, Abbott. Thanks, guys.
You got a hand up?
Yeah, Syntax, you got the mic.
Hey guys, I wanted to drop in, especially because we have my friends from other tickers, and I got some really good news today, and I wanted to share that with you because I think it could be helpful for other communities too. So I was looking into, we have this issue with FINRA, and you guys have an issue with FINRA too. We all have issues with FINRA, right? Right? Anyways, I know I'm right. So I was like, okay, how do we get this information from FINRA if, all the FOIA requests that we're putting in, you have to go through the SEC for their interactions. And I was like, I wish that, we had jurisdiction over records somehow. And then when we were calling DeSantis's office, I asked him, because there's a Boca Raton, Florida office, if DeSantis, if they had any kind of jurisdiction over it. So she pulled up in Florida, it's the Department of Regulation Securities Division. And if you go to Anna Trade's website, there's
I think I'm going to do this for 15 more minutes.
Most of them are through
because my dog is quite anxious upstairs.
Too much information in it right now, but there's a list of all your state representatives for anybody who has a FINRA location.
I'll go to 8 o'clock
in their state. At least for the state of Florida, from what when I started talking to, they actually took me to the department head. And usually I get ghosted a little bit after, I file my complaint, and then I have to reach back to them. Well, they reached back to me. They've got, they say they have jurisdiction over the Boca Raton records. I don't know. I don't know if that's all records, but they have jurisdiction over records. And they can take if they have any state, licenses to operate or to, have business in the state. So they're on it. And so because they're on it, I didn't know if GTII, I reached out to Ham and told him this a while ago, so I don't know.
I gotta take this. I don't know, something's happened here. That was, Ham had called a couple times, so I had to take it. Not sure why I can't hear anything anymore.
You can learn from in some way, and he's a very smart guy, and there's a lot of court cases he's been involved in with the HPIL. He was directly involved with.
Oh, I'm just out of it.
Sued,
so I'm gonna
RICO.
leave the.
And,
I'm gonna leave the call because I took Ham's call. I'm out of it, so you guys can see it on Twitter, and I'm gonna go walk my dog. And I wish everyone a joyous Easter. I'll try to do videos and be more engaged in future iterations of this. But I thought today's call was very good. I think Mark Belisle made some good points, and I was really encouraged to hear that he gets so upset internally. So that was really heartening. And then Avid is expert, particularly on GTII and trading. It was good to hear. Ace did a great job. BusyBrands. So I think, and there was some other people there with great information. 100 is brilliant. Counselor Diamond Hands, very good. So anyway, I think the biggest takeaway from it all for me as it relates to GTII is that the dividend is coming. Also that there's hope for this distribution of a piece of the lawsuit proceeds. Those two things, I think, both are pretty big for GTII. MMTLP, it was interesting to hear sort of implied that there might be some sort of April item coming up about it. I have no idea exactly what they're talking about. My guess is all parties want to get this resolved before it really pulls the mask off of an ugly situation. So anyway, yeah, the Rat Gensler couldn't run a one-car parade. He's I'm Big Al. I'm one of my goals this weekend. I'm going to take the long letter I had been working on for Gary Gensler, and I'm going to try to get it down to 2 or 3 pages. But one of the things I'm just going to let him know from, not that he cares what I think, but he can go down in history, forgotten, just a forgotten man, like all the other heads of government departments. Or he could go down in history and everyone would know his name, much in the same way we all know Elliot Ness, if he had the courage to be an honest man and make a difference. But he also runs the risk of going down in history in ignominy, much like Herbert Hoover, although there's an argument whether Hoover caused that. But Hoover, there's no question history blamed Hoover for the Depression, whether it's right or not. So I think it's up to Gensler. He can continue to meander through the halls of Congress and sleepwalk through the SEC, teach his courses up at MIT, collect his dividend checks, and just be a big zero in life. All right, William Tuck Keating Realtor. I love that name. That's a good name. Not just the William I'm talking about. I'm talking about the whole. It's a very strong name. Well, I think it'll destroy hedge funds, but I don't. I'm not quite as dire that we can't have one or two or three of these happen before the system. The reason is I don't think the system is all monolithical. It's not all on Gary Gensler's side. It's not all on Goldman Sachs's side. It's not all on Ken Griffin's side. There are people that want to see the other side of these trades. So I think both in MMTLP, I think it's almost irrelevant what prices you guys talk about out loud, because you've got 5 or 6 really well-heeled gentlemen who are not going to settle low. It's going to cost the system money. And I guess Avid reached out to Patrick Burns, and Avid or somebody else is reaching out to Elon Musk. I did videos on I did things like this, but whatever. You got to be the one that catches the wind in your back. So anyway, all in all, thank you very much. It was a good day. I need to go walk my dog. I wish you a happy Easter. For those in the other faiths, I hope that your Ramadan continues to be joyful, and I wish blessings over the Passover, which I assume is now for the third Abrahamic faith, and for those that follow something completely different or don't follow it all. I just hope that this weekend is blessed, and tomorrow the birds sing and your dogs are happy to see you, and you can wake up and be thankful for living on this gorgeous blue planet. And maybe I'll do a video over the weekend, but we'll get back together Monday, certainly during the day. So happy Easter to everyone.